Welcome back to 1010's podcast. My name is Michael with Adam and Robbie, and this week we have a special guest on the phone. It's Ryan Sage of Formula Drit. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
As a way of introduction, Ryan has been, basically you've been with Formula Drit from the beginning. You're one of the founding members, and for those that maybe aren't as well-versed in Formula Drit, but have watched it in the past, you co-host, is that fair to say? Co-announce alongside Jarod DeAnda?
Yeah, Jarod and I share hosting duties for what most people see on the live stream, and then we also do that on the TV show as well.
So how does that work exactly with the TV show? Because I don't think that I've ever watched it. I've just watched it live stream on the website or on YouTube.
So basically what we do is, we've been on TV since 2005, originally with G4, and then we moved to ESPN2, and then we were on Versus and Speed. Versus eventually turned into a different network. And today we are on CBS Sports. We've been on CBS Sports. This is going to be our third year there. And so essentially how that works is we are basically filming the live stream with a number of different cameras. And then we take that footage along with supplementary footage from, GoPros and drone and Red cameras. And we boil down the event weekends into either 1, 2, or 3 episodes, depending on the round itself. And then we take those, we package them up into 20 half-hour shows, and they go out on CBS Sports. So it's a little bit of a different product. It's more of telling a story of what's going on in the competition. And one of the episodes in particular for each of the rounds is dedicated to kind of telling a behind-the-scenes story, more of a reality-based docu-style of whatever the storyline is for that weekend. So usually that'll be the top drivers that have made it through competition and things like that. And the reason we do that is it's been something that we've done historically for a long time. It's been something that has helped us identify another market, but it's also been something that our sponsors have found importance in as well, along with the drivers who can say I'm on TV for this period of time and this is the value generated from it, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's only available on broadcast TV then?
Yeah, so that's on CBS Sports, and typically our schedule is based loosely around the event schedule. So we will film a show during an event weekend in conjunction with the live stream, obviously, and then we'll take that back, we'll package it up, and within a couple of weeks it'll be airing on CBS Sports.
Very cool. I've noticed, obviously, that when the drivers come to basically get ready to do their runs, they've got cameras and GoPros and stuff that the staff are attaching to the cars, and I've heard that's for CBS, but I don't have. I'm sure there's a lot of people in your audience demographic that don't have access to broadcast TV anymore, just because I'm sure your audience is a lot younger than some other racing series audiences. So yeah, I hadn't had that experience with Formula Drit yet.
Yeah, no, your experience is a common experience. The demographic of the series is, what people call cord cutters. So we have had a pretty dramatic shift in the number of resources that we've been allocating to the live stream digital product over the years. But we've also kept our feet kind of firmly planted in the linear TV distribution side of things until we see, a reason not to do that. But it challenges us. It keeps us, kind of on our toes, keep us up to speed on what's going on in the linear TV world and what people are doing. And who knows how long that we'll do that. There are a ton of different opportunities out there, especially with this move that's kind of happening pretty steadily, where TV and internet TV basically are pretty much the same thing nowadays. And most of the major providers have some sort of digital component. And I imagine that those changes are going to continue. So we will continue to, put effort into our live product as kind of what we call our first screen product. That's what we consider the primary product in terms of communicating with the fans. And we'd like to be able to, boost up that production quality, have in-car cameras, drone stuff, things like that as our primary means of production. And, that may come, in the short future, or maybe something that we build out over the long term.
Sure. So to take a step back too, because kind of what we had talked about before we started recording the interview, some of our audience is not really well versed in Formula Drit and maybe have never even watched it or understand the competition format. Could you go through how it's set up, all the way from qualifying through the weekend, and then how that kind of disseminates down into points for the series?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're not familiar with the sport of drifting, I can get into that in detail if you'd like. But basically, the way that an event weekend works is we have 32 drivers that are either individual drivers or they're part of a team that may have 3 or 4 drivers as part of a team, depending on how they're set up financially or how they're set up with their sponsorship contracts. Those 32 drivers are the same drivers that travel to all the events. And we start off our competition on Friday with individual run qualifying. So if you can imagine, basically each driver gets 2 non-consecutive laps to go through the course, be judged by a panel of judges. And then the higher of those 2 scores is how they get slotted into what people might be familiar with, like an NCAA bracket. So you have the number 1 qualifier going against the 32nd qualifier, the second place qualifier going up against the 31st qualifier, and so on. And that seeds the competition bracket for what people are probably most familiar with, which is what we call the head-to-head action. Some people call it the tandem drifting. And that's where we go into Saturday. And so Saturday is basically all those head-to-head matchups that go from the top 32 next into the top 16 bracket, 8, 4, and then you get into the finals, and that's where you have a winner. And so that's basically how a competition weekend works. You've got, 3 hours of qualifying roughly on Friday, mixed in with, some other on and off track activities. And then you've got 2 elements of competition broken up. You've got the top 32, and then our main show is what we call the top 16.
So obviously Formula Drift, it's a big year for Formula Drift. You guys have been around for 15 years now and 100 rounds of competition. Did you develop that setup for the weekend early on in Formula Drift? Was it borrowed from D1? How did that come to be?
Yeah, well, we initially, when we first started developing the sport here, a lot of what we had utilized had been from the template that D1 had been using, and other people that had been doing informal drifting events had been doing. Basically consisted of a qualifying format into a head-to-head format. Over the years, though, what we found is that the North American market, America in particular, really tended towards a certain style of drifting. So not only did our sporting regulations change, which are the regulations that govern how we do the competition, but also our technical regulations changed. And because of the wide diversity of vehicles, we were always chasing what was the best way to present this to this particular demographic. And if you follow Japanese drifting in the early days and you follow us in the early days, you'll see some similarities, but there's quite a divergence as you start going down the historical path between us and them. And other series. Many of the other series that are around now, the European series and some of the series in Central and South America, have adopted a lot of what we do. And there's reasons for that I could get into if you'd like. But the content that you see on track is pretty similar. It's 2 cars drifting against each other as the main show. But a lot of the nuance, the judging criteria, how you're allocating points, how you're communicating it to fans, how the fans are involved, has really been something that we've developed on our own, because we've seen just we've tried to really be cognizant of what the fans want and really focus the attention on trying to create the best possible show that we can that still keeps in mind fairness to the competitors and their ability to have the freedom to do what they want in a subjective sport.
I think that's an interesting distinction to bring up because, you can never please everybody, right? I mean, everybody always seems to find criticism in something that you do, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what sport it is, or even if it's sporting related or not. But the idea that there's different types of drifting is kind of an interesting one, in that America's developed a style that seems to work for us and for Formula Drift and for the Pro-Am series and all that, versus what they do in Japan. And people get passionate about that.
What's different about Japan? Is there any what's really different?
Well, I think the main difference is probably more subtle than you would think when you look at it today, though there are some pretty glaring differences when you look at the actual way that it's judged. But I think if you want to really understand how it evolved, one of the best ways to look at it from my vantage point is to go back and look at how D1 originally started. In Japan and in Japanese culture, it's very much a patriarchal culture where there's a lot of respect paid to your elders. There's not a lot of what we would see in early days where if, somebody thought that they got a bad result or something, that there would be a freak out and, there'd be a crazy argument or whatever. That just does not happen. And a lot of that was based on one of the founding people that was involved in drifting in general, Keiichi Tsuchiya. And so and people know him as the Drift King, and so whenever he would give down a result, that was it. That was the end of story. And if you lost and you had feelings about how things went down, it didn't really matter because this is the guy that's basically making the rules, and you're going to accept it and go back to your pit and try again later. That same kind of like patriarchal environment didn't really exist for us at the beginning. There was always who are the judges going to be? And no matter who we put as a judge, whether it was a respected driver from Japan, whether it was a retired driver from the series, somebody that was compatible and that understood what we were trying to do and understood what the drivers were looking for, there was always going to be people that were going to give input about you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And so that has always been part of how the series has kind of operated, is we've really had to kind of plot our own course to try to figure out what's the best way to be accountable to the drivers and understand how these cars are being developed and built, because that's another huge distinction between the cars in Japan and the cars here, especially in the early days, but even so today. And then also how to best relate this back to the fans, because the fans are such a huge part of the success of the sport. If they can't walk into it and understand 75% of it, we're really doing a disservice to the fans. And so that's been a primary attention grabber for us over the years that really started at the beginning, is that we realized that we were not going to be able to have a Drift King type person. It just wasn't going to work here culturally, wasn't going to work with our drivers. And so we really kind of had to develop a system that allowed there to be some flexibility, some movement, even in real time, not in minute seconds, but event to event, and say, we didn't really think this worked out the way that we wanted it to. What if we did this? And be able to be pliable and move, and then talk to drivers about that and see if it made sense. And there was definitely a evolutionary process where many, many mistakes are made along the way. And we try to build on those to get to something where, there's an easy to understand system of judging and that it makes sense to fans.
I would say that your judges have a lot of clout now. Ryan Lontaine's been around since 2011 or something like that, and Bryan Eggert and especially Ryan. He's on camera every weekend that you guys are judging and going through competition. So I'm sure that helps to some extent versus when you're first starting out and maybe you don't have judges that have been in the series for several years. I would assume that some people take some respect in those guys' opinions because they do have a lot of experience, but obviously it's never going to be to the same extent that, people respect the Drift King's, his decision on competition.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think so now. Ryan has definitely become a figurehead. He's been a huge part of helping us and the rest of the global community kind of understand what it is that we're trying to do with this sport over the long term, and especially in Ryan's case, he's been able to develop a vernacular that people can understand, that's easy to be able to parse and communicate that not only to drivers but also to the general public if there is something that needs to be nuanced in a judging call. And not, like you said, everybody recognizes that you're not going to be able to convince everybody, and not everybody's going to come to the table with the historical archive of everything that's transpired up to this point. But the idea is that you try to create something that's not overly complicated, that applies to people's intuitions when they're watching drifting, and that also is in line with fairness to the drivers.
Yeah, and I think something that some people miss is that you guys have a private drivers meeting, before every event, and actually have a discussion with with your drivers, and they have a opportunity to voice concerns, or basically the media is not allowed in that meeting, from what I understand, which creates, for lack of a better term, maybe a safe space or a place where you guys can collaborate together.
Yeah, no, that is true. We actually, there's multiple meetings prior to each element of competition within the event weekend. And there's also oftentimes, especially at new tracks, we'll have an on-track Thursday meeting where we can talk about things that have transpired in the past, if it's not a new track, or what is happening from last year to this year. Because one of the things that we've had to really keep an eye on in particular is that the development of these cars have become so specific to this sport. You have the highest horsepower stock chassis vehicles in the world that are burning off a set of tires in qualifying pretty much on the first run, and then that they're having to make some adjustments on in tandem to barely get through 2 laps on the second run. And because of that, you have this other element of smoke and of visual distraction that comes into play. And that changes from year to year. It can change from on course condition. It can change from course layout. And so being able to understand either how to anticipate how that might affect something, or if there was a real world example of something that happened the year prior, being able to understand how that happened and how we can either work to better it or use it as an example of what the judges may or may not want to see.
What's your opinion on the kind of insane engine building and we're talking about Dean's got a 1,300 horsepower, 1,400 horsepower Viper, and guys are in the 1,000 horsepower. Is that something you anticipated, and how do you guys react to that and try to keep the series, relatable and obtainable for people to try to work their way into Pro 1?
Yeah. I mean, this topic in particular has been something that has really fired up the grassroots quite a bit. There's been a sense that as a grassroots driver, maybe going into Pro-Am with aspirations to get into Pro 2, with my 350, 400 horsepower car, it's too big of a hill to climb, to take that car and modify it up to, 900 or 1,000 horsepower. I think that's a nice conversation to have. I think if you really look into it, it's not really a hugely insurmountable problem for people to be able to do that. I mean, teams have been doing that for a long, long time. And relatively speaking, in traditional motorsports, the cost to run a drifting program over 8 events is literally a percentage of almost every other motorsport out there. So we have that kind of going for us. But I think when we first started looking at how the vehicles were being developed, I don't think that we really were able to foresee that it was going to be getting above 1,000 horsepower. If you go back to like 2004, 2005, I think that we knew that there was going to be some development because early on, domestic vehicles dominated the series in 2004 and 2005. And a lot of that was because they had very easy, reliable power plants in vehicles that could move relatively well. And they had the speed and the ability to run away. And so part of looking at how that affects technical regulations is also in part looking at the sporting regulations about what you want those cars to do. If you see cars that have an obvious speed and grip advantage, how do you get the other drivers up to speed? And that's always been an ongoing process. I think where we're at now, we have a pretty nicely divided field where you can get a import car that dominates on a weekend, you can get a domestic car that dominates on a weekend, you can have a whole year where an import car dominates, in the case of a James Dean, where you have the ability to basically build a chassis from the ground up that's drifting specific, or you have situations or years where you have a factory back effort like a Vaughn Gittin Jr. or a Justin Pollock, where they can take the best of the best parts that they have access to and build something that's going to be very competitive. And for a year, they might, dominate or do really well. But then people make changes and they adjust, and we try to anticipate what's going on there. One of the biggest limiting factors in the sport right now that I don't really think that there's a way to get around it from a team perspective is that we basically have a tire to weight ratio rule. And you can have as much horsepower in your car as you want, but if you can't use it the way that you want to, it's almost pointless to have it. And what we've actually been seeing now is people are kind of detuning their cars to make the power more usable, as opposed to just burning up the tires because they just don't have enough grip. You know, the tires that we use are tires that are basically off the shelf, street radials, 200 or so DOT approved tires, tread wear rating. And there's not a lot you can do with that. I mean, you can burn it to the ground in 2 laps, and that's pretty much what it's going to be. And people are really, really struggling to find more grip in the vehicle now. And it's not about having more power. It's about understanding suspension dynamics. It's about understanding how to set up your chassis. And so a lot of people are realizing that the power wars are not really just about power. It's about how you use that power to get to the ground. And there's a lot more to that than just the power plant.
Yeah, I was interested. We were talking to Kevin Lawrence because we know him through a friend, and we were actually at PRI. I don't know if you've ever been out to PRI, and we were talking with him, and he was talking about how, and this was when he was in his Pro 2 car, Steven, and I can't remember what the width restriction is on Pro 2, if it's 265 or something. It's not super wide, but he was talking about, there's a lot of times that we run, 8, 9 PSI in the rear tires in the car to try to get as much grip as possible. Now, he had an incident, I wasn't New Jersey, I don't
Atlanta.
think it was Atlanta, where he debeated a tire. So, these guys are, that's a challenge that they have to, fight round to round, qualifying to qualifying, is trying to find the right grip in the car. And sometimes you make a miscalculation and tire falls off. But I don't know. It's interesting the challenges that drifting faces at a pro level, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think in particular, when the horsepower wars first kind of came into play, we did see a lot of debeating, and it was something that we really had to think about systematically, because not only does it have an impact on the quality of competition, it also speaks to what drivers are doing given the compound that they're using. And, so we would see drivers that maybe didn't have the right compound in the tire that they were using, and that was the only one that they could use. And so they had to basically deflate the tire to, very unreasonable tire pressure, to where, you go on a track like, say, Orlando, where you have these really rough gradients in the track, and you're dropping off of, a top layer into a bottom layer on a not a very smooth decline, and you can very easily debeat a tire. And in qualifying, that might fly if you can make it around the track and it doesn't debeat too bad. In your lead run of tandem, you debeat a tire, it's pretty much the end of the day. In the chase run, if you debeat a tire, you better hope that you finish up the lap as best you can. So the consequences of that have become such that people have made adjustments, and so we've seen less and less of that. But still, it does happen from time to time. And what's happening now in the industry is that drifting has become such an important part of these tire manufacturers' marketing campaigns, and many of the manufacturers understand where the other competitors that they are going up against are in terms of tire development. And if they don't have a tire that maybe has the specifications, the grip levels that they want for any of the given vehicles that they're sponsoring, many of them are motivated to go out and develop a tire that falls within the constraints of the rules, but that will get them on a more even playing field. And so that's been kind of exciting to watch. It's actually moved the industry in a certain direction, because they have all of this data on burning through these tires round after round and how they hold up against certain types of pressure, certain types of courses, different types of temperature and things like that. And we've got data ourselves on all the tires. So it's been really fascinating to see kind of that progression as well.
Would you have imagined in 2003 that you would have an influence on tire manufacturing?
Not really. I mean, when I started this with Jim, I think, I would imagine, like many other young entrepreneurs or people that were starting a business, is that you really have no clue what you're doing. You just see an opportunity, and you don't even really know and it's not clear to you what that opportunity is. You have this deep passion for this sport. You want to see more and more people get into it. You want to show people how cool it is, and that's pretty much what you care about. And along the way, you quickly learn many important lessons about how the sport needs to be structured or how it should be structured. You have a lot of different conversations about how to manage the different relationships in the sport. I don't think I was smart enough or intuitive enough to extrapolate out 15 years and say, you know what, in this time frame, tire manufacturers are going to be developing tires for drifting or things like that. But it's pretty cool to see nonetheless.
What really were your expectations? I mean, did you think that Formula Drift would get to this size, or was it just kind of one of those things that you guys enjoyed drifting and wanted to bring it to the United States at a more professional level?
Well, I think that we still believe that the sport has a long way to go. My experience in dealing with a lot of non-endemic sponsors or agencies or people that are looking at this as like either a niche marketing thing or a multicultural marketing thing or a motorsports thing is that there's still a lot of lack of education about what the sport is. There's a perception when you say the word drifting to certain people that doesn't match on to what's going on in reality. And so we spend a lot of time trying to get people out to events. Once they get out to events, they kind of understand it, they get it, they see how visceral it is, they see the engagement with fans and things like that. But when we first started this, one of the things that had been operating in the background is that Jim and I had an agency that we had started after we had met at another company, and the primary reason that we started that agency was because we had seen a lot of people come into what was kind of being labeled back then as like the sport compact car industry, and this was in kind of like the latter years of import drag racing and, a lot of the car shows that were out and about. And it was kind of and because of Fast and the Furious, there was a lot of companies coming into the industry and a lot of non-endemic companies coming into the industry. And they were coming in and they were doing things out of a traditional playbook, and it wasn't working. And so what was happening is they would come in and they would be in for a year or two, and then they'd be out, and it would suck all the wind out of certain elements of the industry. Well, if this brand left, then maybe we should leave too. And the reason why that was happening from our perspective was that because they didn't know how to talk to this audience, this demographic, and that was one of the main criticisms that we also had with mainstream motorsports, is that mainstream motorsports was struggling to find new fans for whatever reason. And there's, we could go to town on that all day long. Maybe it's the relevance of the sport, maybe it's the language that they're speaking, maybe they are not latching on to the things that are developing that have become more robust now, like social media and understanding how kids spend their time and things like that. And so we saw a real opportunity here after the first event to say, wow, if millennial kids, and they weren't called that at the time, but if they're willing to come out and hang out with us for 2 days in the hot sun and go crazy and scream and walk away with their voices blown out at the end of the weekend, I think that really says a lot about the sport, and we need to really give this an opportunity. And so that was one of the working premises that we had coming into it, is that here's a problem of motorsports. There's no youth in motorsports. Here's a potential solution. Let's see how it goes.
As Formula Drift develops, though, do you find that you face the same challenges that other developing series run into? I mean, is there something kind of cool and underground about something that's not mainstream?
There is, and I don't want to lose that authenticity. I've seen a lot of people in other parts of the world really pushing for this, hey, let's make it mainstream thing. And I don't really even know what that means, to be honest. Everything we're doing on the face of it aligns in some sense with other mainstream motorsports. We have a TV show, we've got a digital presence, all that kind of stuff. But it's more about the way that we're perceived. It's kind of the cool kids. It's the way that people are wanting to spend their time. It's really hard to get millennials to come out to live events, unless it's a music festival or things like that. So getting them out over the course of a weekend to our events is a big accomplishment, I think. And we do want to maintain, the cool factor of what it is. And I think that that's inherent in the sport. But what I've also seen is that there are other people that are interested or have been fans of other forms of motorsports, be it NASCAR or drag racing or whatever, that once they see drifting, they also love it as well. And so the audience has really changed over the years. It's still very youthful. It's still kind of male-centric. But you come out to an event now, and especially if you come out to events in Southern California, there's tons of young dads with their kids. There's a growing percentage of women that are coming out to the events. And so in that sense, I think that's a positive mainstream, in quotes, development. But I agree with you that I don't think that we want to do things and we can talk about what that would be, that would make drifting or Formula Drift lose kind of the cool kid factor.
Yeah, I assume it's a real challenge because you have to stay on top of trends and, do things like, okay, do you have somebody that manages things, even things like when they make changes to stories on Instagram. I mean, you have to have somebody that it's a weird thing though, but it's something that you have to take into consideration in 2018 and moving forward, is that people communicate in different ways and share ideas in different ways. And, if your demographic or an important demographic to you latches onto some new technology or something replaces Snapchat or whatever, that's an important place to be, and it's part of doing business at that level.
It is, yeah. I mean, one of the things that you might find interesting, but it's so obvious when you think about it, is if you look at the different peaks of the sport as it's kind of gone up in popularity, there's almost a 1-to-1 correlation with the growth of the sport and kind of the internet third-party app stuff kind of coming online. So the explosion of Facebook, the explosion of Instagram, all the different social media platforms, those that are still here and those that are gone. Drifting has basically grown in light of those, and that speaks primarily to our audience and how they're engaging and how they're distributing content, and how we've had pretty open policy when it's come to people coming out to the events, third-party producers that want to make content. You go on YouTube and you type in drifting, you're going to find tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of high-quality video. So we really take that seriously because it's been part of the main growth of the sport over quite a few years now, and so really understanding that that's how we're talking to our audience is an important thing moving forward.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, it's overall good for the sport, and then that translates into it being good for Formula Drift and your exposure to brands.
Right.
So. What else we got here? So talk a little bit about how the 2018 season's gone. I know you guys have made some changes to judging, and you continue to make changes to judging, over the course of the series. But how's 2018 gone? Do you guys even have some lessons learned already for some things you want to change for 2019? And eventually I want to talk about St. Louis, because that's basically in our backyard. So really looking forward to actually physically being at that round.
Yeah, and I guess we could start with that. I mean, the biggest change that we've had from 2017 to 2018 is we had kind of a pretty substantial change in one of the venues that we'd been at for the past 2 years as a pro championship, 3 years as a event in Canada. And it was one of our favorite events. Everybody loved it. It was kind of started being nicknamed the Irwindale of the East, and it definitely had a super unique, really awesome fan base there. Over time, we kind of realized that it was becoming very difficult for teams to get up there, not only from a legal standpoint for some people, but also from a financial standpoint. And there had been this kind of renewed interest in trying to do an event in the Midwest. Early on in the series, we were in Chicago, and that worked out pretty well. But there wasn't really any venue that we could go back to in Chicago that had what we would require for the modern day drifting competition. And, we found a venue out there that was willing to work with us. It had some of our old friends from Las Vegas Motor Speedway that were up there. And so we decided to drop Canada and move it to St. Louis. And so we kind of started off the, last year's SEMA show with the announcement of the schedule. And, that is pretty much the rollout the schedule. The way that it's played out this year has been really good. Every year when you go into a new season, you're always wondering what the first event is going to be like and how that is going to set the tone for the remainder of the season. We had a huge Long Beach event, and that rolled into a really awesome Orlando event. Generally speaking, Road Atlanta this year was incredible. And competitively speaking, as we've gotten past our fourth event now, what we've seen is that we've had 4 different rounds, 4 different winners. It's been the first time in a long time that I can remember that that's happened. The teams are really on point right now. We're kind of firing on all cylinders, which makes me a little bit nervous because I don't want, sometimes you don't want things to be too perfect. But, as far as the domestic series is concerned, it's been a really good first half of the season. We want to try to continue that for the remainder of the season and finish strong. And obviously, one of the biggest things that has happened in the off season is that we had originally planned to replace Irwindale with Las Vegas because of what had been going on with Irwindale. Last minute crazy changes for those who've been following that, that drama. We're back at Irwindale. We're going to be there for 3 years. So last year wasn't our last official year. It's going to be for the next 3 years as well. So that's kind of been how it's been so far and what our plans are. I think with regards to St. Louis, we really don't have huge expectations of what we want to accomplish there. I think we want to see how strong the market is in the Midwest and support for this type of event. We're fascinated to see how it's going to play out competitively because, we are going to be on the infield. We are going to be on an interesting layout that is hopefully going to accommodate, the best viewing point for fans, but also be good for drivers and not burn up tires too quickly. So, there's a lot that'll probably be learned from that. And I'm sure it won't be smooth sailing, from A to Z, but we're happy to be in that market and see how it plays out.
How did you guys determine the layout for that track? Because I think it's a little bit different than what MDU used to run there. I'm sure it's a collaborative effort to try to figure out how you're going to run that course.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is really trying to figure out what the cars can sustain, especially on tire wear. So we may find that as we're running on Thursday, that surface in particular is really rough, and it's going to be super high speed. So we don't know for sure how each manufacturer is going to hold up under each car. And so there is going to be a little bit of ferreting out. So we've basically, kind of announced like a tentative layout of what it's going to be. I have some hopes that we're, going to do, if you know that area, that there's a left-hand hook that goes out into the track that I'm hoping that we can connect there. We may be able to do that. We may not be able to do that. But if we can, I think that'll add another element of excitement. But if not, it'll still be pretty cool. And, hopefully that will be a good kind of grounding for us there to build on that. We'd like to, keep going back there if we could.
So if you get there Thursday and decide that doesn't work, you've got some leeway to kind of alter that.
Yeah, there's always going to be a little bit of flexibility. I mean, the alterations are really just going to be about when is the finish line, right? And the finish line could be in a straight line. The finish line could be hooking around the left. It's just going to depend on tire wear. It's also going to depend on the vantage point of the judges and the cameras that we can put up to make sure we're not shooting into smoke or that there's no safety concerns. And a lot of these things that go into, the venue for the first time, you try to lay it out as best you can, but you never know what way the wind is going to blow. You never, you pretty much only know what you can predict, when and where the sun is going to set, what you think the average temperature is going to be, how the cars are holding up on the course, and variables like that.
Yeah, it's a challenge that you guys face that nobody else does. But we saw in Atlanta when, Matt Field had his collision with the barricade because he kind of lost orientation for where he was, and he got in a line of smoke and ended up off course. But just for the sake of people watching the live stream, sometimes you can't see what's going on. Not very often, but it does happen if it's a particularly still night. It's just a unique consideration that you guys have to think about versus another series.
Yeah, it's a real issue, to be honest. I mean, when the smoke is standing still and there's nothing we can do about it, and we can't force Mother Nature to blow it out for us, it becomes a challenge. I mean, we've actually gone as far as looking into, especially at venues like Wall, not so much at Road Atlanta because it's too big, but venues like Wall where you could possibly move things around with some really heavy duty industrial fans. I mean, that's the level that we've gotten to in the development of this sport is saying, all right, how much is it going to cost to do that? How much of an impact is it going to have? Is it going to save us, 10, 15 seconds every run on downtime, having to wait for the smoke to clear? Is it going to help us have a better shot? Is it going to help us minimize the fragmentation that happens with the video cameras because of the light that hits the smoke and all these other little nuanced things? But it definitely is a exclusive issue to us for sure.
Do you guys talk a lot about just overall switchover times and trying to move things along? I mean, I'm sure it's a challenge for any motorsport, but as we said, you guys face some different challenges that others don't.
Yeah, for me on my side of things, because I'm primarily involved in the forward-facing public side of things. So the production of the live stream, production of the TV show, production of the event as it's happening. For me, the fan experience has to be paramount in the whole thing. And if I feel like I'm suffering as a fan, I have to believe that other people are suffering too. And maybe that's the millennial in me. I'm at the upper end of the millennials, but my ability to have patience for things that in ordinary circumstances would drive me nuts, doesn't really go too far. And so it's really important, I think, to be mindful of that. And trying to keep the show running. And sometimes you just can't control it and you've got to live with it. You've got oil down and there's not a lot you can do. You can, you go talk to your sideline reporter and you get other tidbits of information out to the audience. But, sometimes you just run out of time or you get to the end of a bracket and you have one more time. And we can't move into the next bracket because of the way that the rules are situated now and the fairness of those competitors. And so we're basically waiting for that tire change. Things like that are like areas where I want to try to find some improvement because I think it does hurt the run of show. But one of the things that I've been thinking about recently is, maybe my standards are a little bit off. Maybe, the fans are not as impatient as I am. Maybe they are, but when I see a 4.5 hour show in New Jersey and not one person left that grandstand, it tells me something. I don't know what it tells me, if they're just so patient that they want to see the end result, or if it's the way that the competition ended up. But for me, I don't know if I would have been able to stick around for 4.5 hours. I would have, been expecting that, I can do this. I can do 2-hour main show and, then I'm out. But the fans seem to be all about it. So
do you guys look at attrition on like live stream watching or anything like that to see if, maybe some of the people that aren't as bought in because they're not there, they didn't buy a ticket, maybe they just bail out at some point and look up results later? Or do you guys have that data?
We do have that data. It's actually really hard to get into the nuance of it because we use multiple platforms for the distribution. So, for example, on Facebook, you definitely have a lot more attrition because of the standards and practices that you have to adhere to when you go to commercial breaks on Facebook, as opposed to, say, the player that we have on our website. You don't have that. So you have a much longer viewing time on our proprietary player and even on YouTube as well, even though they have some of those prohibitions on certain types of advertising. But yeah, across the board, you will see people that are very much doing I'm going to go get a beer out of the refrigerator during a commercial break, which is natural. So you see that during commercial breaks, and then, most people are coming back to watch the show. But the sport also has something like, if you're familiar with surfing, there's this idea called like the champion effect, where some of the fans, some of the drivers that have these huge followings, if they fall out early in the competition, that fan base will go away. If they stick around in competition longer, that fan base will stick around. So if we see, a perfect example is when Kristaps Zablush won Road Atlanta. we saw a huge number of Latvian fans basically from beginning to end. And so what that tells me is that, they're there rooting, they're watching on Apple TV or on a big screen or something. And, he's telling his story and he's, having a great show. But had he got knocked out in the top 16, we probably would have lost that audience, or at least a portion of it. So
that whole YouTube ad standard, Facebook ad standard thing is kind of off in the weeds a little bit, but that sucks for you guys. Just saying, it really, I mean, I know that you're using their platform and obviously you have to abide by what their regulations are, but it sucks that you guys can't utilize that space in that audience to its full potential, to support Formula Drift and support the sport.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think, from what I know from people that I talk to and other people that are doing things, I don't know that that's going to be a forever situation. I think a lot of the platforms, the third-party platforms, especially if you're providing a continued amount of people on their platform, are going to hold off on that forever. One of the big tells is going to be probably known within the next 30 days. Facebook in particular has signed a really large deal with the World Surfing League, and they are heavily supported with advertising. And so there's been talk about how that's all going to work out. And if we see that starting to happen, I think that we will be able to give a better overall experience to fans when we go to commercial breaks on those platforms. But there's already some talk of workarounds as well, where you could have a broadcast, an 8-hour broadcast on Friday or Saturday or whatever, 4-hour broadcast on Friday, 4-hour broadcast on Saturday, where you never break, where the only thing that you do when you need to actually take a competition break is you go to a lock-off shot or something like that, or you go to what people call branded content, where it's prepared content that is not necessarily a commercial, but it does enough to where your sponsors are getting some value out of it. So right now, when we are publishing on these third-party platforms, the sponsors are getting a huge amount of value out of all the in-show branding and all the organic stuff that we do. But obviously, those platforms don't allow us to run their commercials on there. So, it's something that we want to try to think about in the future. Yeah,
that's a weird fine line too. I mean, so the track has advertising on it. The Von Gitten's Mustang has Monster down the side of it. That's seems to be okay, but having an actual advertisement in the middle of your broadcast is not okay. It's just the standards are interesting, and like you said, it will be interesting to see if those change here in the near future.
Yeah, and you may find that, or we may find that, the better direction is to do things in totality on, our own proprietary player or something along those lines, or build it out and keep it in the Formula Drift ecosystem. There's so many different opportunities and options that are out there right now, that, we're literally fielding through these on a pretty regular basis. Because one thing that has been amazing to watch is that the live stream numbers and the views that are being generated from live stream content are so compelling in terms of the year-over-year growth, especially from 2016 to 2017 and that continuing into 2018, that it makes sense to one of these third-party apps that they would want you to stay on their platform. And so, for that reason, maybe they have to give something up. Maybe they have to figure out a way to work with independent producers like us to, give the best possible experience to people that are on their platform, because that's ultimately what they want as well. But, who knows? It's a really fascinating time in this particular space, and many different independent publishers and producers are doing different kinds of things. I think the reality for us will become clear as we move forward, and hopefully we'll have a clear idea of what that is as time moves on.
Sure. I don't want to take up a whole lot more of your time, but before we let you go, I did want to talk to you about Midwest Drift Union. And they're leaving the sport at the end of 2017, and how that has affected Formula Drift. Maybe not this year, but how you may see it affecting some of the guys moving up through the pro ranks and getting their Pro-Am license, and what that does overall for the sport.
Well, I mean, I guess I can say some general things that I think, and then if you want me to get more specific, I can. In my department, I don't deal with the relationships with the Pro-Am partners, other than just the friendliness of seeing them and talking to them about what's going on when we catch up on event weekends. Primarily that's handled through Jim and through Andy here at our office. But the one thing I think that's really important to understand about Pro-Am is that we, unlike Pro 2, don't control anything that Pro-Am does. We can recommend things to them. We can help them with the way that they're setting things up. But what we found is that each of the individual promoters are dealing with different constraints in the market that they deal with. And some things in terms of car build, in terms of safety, are going to be a lot more rigid than they are in other areas. And some people are going to have different aspirations in terms of being an event promoter as opposed to a Pro-Am promoter. So we kind of have to, at this point at least, kind of keep our hands off of pushing them too much on their business model and more focus on trying to support them in recruiting drivers that eventually want to come to Pro 2 and on. I think there are a lot of guys out there right now that are pretty tenured promoters that are doing a really good job. Nick Dizone and Brian Eggert and the guys up in Seattle and Evergreen. And those are the kind of guys that we want to continue to support. I hope and I would think that there is, a market to support the Midwest area. How it's all going to play out, it's really hard to say. I think, Nick did a tremendous job, but he, also needs to do what's best for him ultimately. And I don't know all the details of that, so I can't really speak to it other than just to emphasize, some of the things that he said in the public. But ultimately Pro-Am is only going to be as good as the promoters that are trying to find the advantages in each of the markets that they go to, and that's going to vary. We will try to give as much support as we can, guidance. They can call us anytime. They can ask us for any kind of advice. They can ask us for partner relationships and things like that. But ultimately, we don't really have a say in how they run their business. Yeah, I mean,
whatever reasons that MDU decided to disband is, obviously their business, but they have to do what's right for them. And, they have, at the end of the day, they have to be a business too. And if it's not profitable, which is what they alluded to in kind of their disband, when they announced to the public that they were going to disband and not continue, you can't expect them to lose money for the sake of, promoting drivers. That's not realistic long term. So I don't think anybody has any ill will against them. It's just it makes you wonder. Dirk Stratton came from MDU, so it makes you wonder how exactly that affects you guys or just the sport long term. A couple years down the road.
It's hard to say. I mean, I think one of my greatest regrets is that when we first started doing this, we built the tip of the pyramid before we built the foundation. And it wasn't until many years in that we realized that we really needed to have that secondary and third layer to fill the pyramid in order to have a matriculation system that was going to make sense, that was similar to other motorsports. I mean, when we first started this, we were basically just taking more or less drifters off the street, people that were homegrown drifters that were doing it for the fun on the weekends that weren't really accepted at tracks. And luckily, Jim and I had relationships with tracks where we could go in and say, hey, we're building this sport. You may have heard about these crazy drifting kids, but we're actually trying to formalize it. And it gave us an avenue to go and do that. It got us into Road Atlanta, it got us into Irwindale, obviously, and we could kind of build off of that. But the way that we were getting people into the sport was more or less, could you run a program, right? And the could you run a program turned into 60 some odd drivers within the first few years. And it actually turned out to be a really tough thing for us to deal with because we were knocking off 45 competitors, every single weekend, because this was back when we were doing top 16. And then once we converted to top 32, that number was a little bit more sustainable. But even at 60 drivers, we realized it wasn't gonna work, because the top 32 competition, where you had the number one qualifier going up against the 32nd qualifier, was not even a competition. It was more of, how do I avoid not getting my car damaged? And it was a real problem, because we had drivers that probably shouldn't have been quote unquote pros, that were running these programs. And so that's when it really caused a huge emphasis for us to try to build the foundation and have a proper matriculation system. And it needed to start from the Pro-Am side of things. And then, that's when we eventually developed Pro 2 as an intermediary, because even that jump from Pro-Am to Pro initially still didn't really make a lot of sense. You had guys coming in that were completely unprepared. And the only way that we saw to be able to do that is we needed to run a program that we controlled, so that when Dirk Stratton comes into Pro 2, he has the proper resources and the information about how to make the jump to Pro. And I think he's a great example of that. Alex Silbrandt's a great example of that. Justin Pollock in the early days is a great example of that. If you have the right people around you, if you have the right resources, and not just financial resources, but the understanding of how to run a drifting program, and then you've developed your skills good enough, then you have a fighting chance to be a top-notch pro. But you really do need those elements, and that's only going to come from experience.
Well, I don't have any other questions for Ryan. Did you guys have anything?
I got two real quick ones.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Ryan, do you drift? Do you have a car? Do you get out there and actually wheel it every once in a while? Maybe not on a competition level, but just a fun weekend every once in a while?
I haven't gotten a car in a long, long time. In the early days, yes, and we had cars. I actually got like 6 points on my record before I was like 22, so I learned very quickly that that wasn't really sustainable. Now I'm a conservative driver, and right. I'm more focused on the business. So, but I have a lot of interests that intersect with motorsports and other things that I'm involved in. But no, I don't make it an active part of my life to be out drifting.
All right. I just out of curiosity then, you got any particular, I wouldn't want to make you pick a driver, because that's not going to be a thing. I understand that. But do you have a favorite car? Somebody that competing this year, like a car that you just think really stands out above and beyond, that's really cool to you, interesting?
Wow. I mean, there's so many.
Which is one of the things I love about drifting is the huge variety. But
yeah, no, me too. I mean, from the early days, I was always like an S15 Skyline fan, R34 four-door, that kind of stuff, from following it way back before we were doing it. And I still love those cars. I think the most impressive car to me from looks and sounds and engineering is probably Chris Dapp's. I think that's kind of changed the game a little bit in terms of what's possible. So I would say that's definitely up there. I love most of the things that have been done with the BRZ and the FRS in the series. I think there's a lot of diversity in those builds, bringing something different to the table, whether it's a Nat V8 or whether it's a turbo 4-cylinder or 2JZ, whatever. I love those cars as well. And I was in the early days. I was really interested to see the response to the domestic vehicles, and the response to the domestic vehicles, if anybody's been around since the beginning, was very negative, very negative. Ford in particular, was kind of not really accepted early on, and then Ken Gucci got in a car, and it kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, and then that allowed Vaughn to get into his program. And now when you come to our events, and especially looking at our data that we have, Ford is one of the more aspirational brands in the series. So I think those guys have done a really good job with their program here and the relevance and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a broad answer, but I gave you at least my BMW favorite.
It's hard to beat that car. It's such an incredible build.
Yeah, no, it is. And are you guys aware of the story of that car from last year at Irwindale?
Yeah, actually, I saw him because they'd brought that car in to debut it, and it was still bare carbon Kevlar. I don't even think he had any sponsor stickers on it or anything. And then for him to run that in competition that weekend was so awesome.
Yeah, I love the fact that a lot of the drivers now have built their cars to kind of more or less match their personality, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
Christop's personality in real life is a perfect anthropomorphism of that car, right? And same with Vaughn, same with Chelsea's. Dye's car now, they've tuned the sound kind of out of it. It more squeals. It's kind of softer now, but it has this like whine to it. It's got this cool like I'm gliding along type of vibe. I like that people are doing that. I don't know if that's on purpose or intentional, but it's certainly something that stood out to me in the last year or so.
Yeah, I would say that same thing about like Matt Field with the Corvette is perfect. I love that car so much. I don't know what it is about his C6 in particular. But it's got a lot of HGK parts on it too, and carbon Kevlar and carbon fiber, and so that's been a cool part of the sport too. Is those guys trying to figure out how to save weight and remove body panels as quickly as possible, and development of the chassis and the overall car so that it's repairable in the event of an accident. And you got 5-minute competition timeout, so how quickly can we do an alignment, and stuff like that. It's interesting how that's developed.
Yeah, no, and I think Matt is in particular a real success case. Usually, and maybe this has been more in the past than it has been in the recent years, you would have kind of like a developmental year where everybody would kind of like give you a break in your competition results because, you're going to be fine tuning things and figuring out, what the other competition is doing, and it's a new chassis and blah, blah, blah. Matt really didn't take that approach. He basically, showed the world how he was developing that car and came out wanting to, destroy everybody. And it took him a couple rounds, but that car's there. I mean, that car is sick. And it's showing some high probabilities of maybe taking a win this year.
Yeah, I mean, he already took second place, right? So it's,
Yep.
I mean, that's awesome for him. I'm very excited for him, and I think it's been good for, not to get like super corporate, but we've kind of gone there anyway, talking about advertising, but it's good for his brand in general. The whole debut of the car, the way that they did it, that's a whole other side of the business that we don't have to get into, but it was good for him overall.
Yep, for sure.
So, all right, Ryan, thank you very, very much. Very appreciative of you taking the time, and we'll hang up with you here. I'll follow up with you on an email because we'll just keep rolling through a couple other things on the show here. But again, very appreciative. Thank you very much.
Anytime, guys. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, man.
All right. Bye.
All right, Adam, do you have an opener?
I do.
Okay, let's jump into that.
Okay.
Is your transition game on point?
We're ready.
It's as on
you
point
ready?
as it ever isn't.
Robbie.
I mean, let's be real here.
Is Robbie ready? He was doing a lot of tab shifting.
Robbie
over there.
was-
Oh,
I'm
Robbie was-
trying so hard to keep up. I'm trying.
Yeah, Alt Shift right there. He's just flipping those tabs.
We need an intern so I could have.
we do need an
questions.
intern.
That's
Yeah.
all right.
See, it's like part of me thinks like we need to have a list of questions so Robbie can be a little more prepared. But then I'm like, no, we're not doing
don't
it.
wanna do
I have a
because-
list right here, and I don't know that I went through
Half of
Half
it.
all
of it.
or half or none.
Yeah.
So
That's fine though.
Well, that was the hardest part about the interview with Freddie Hunt too. Is like I have to try to tab and talk.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
that's all right. It is what it is. People should be accepting of what we give them for free.
Free
That's what
podcast.
I'm saying.
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
it's all good.
So anyway, Adam's opener.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to complain again because it's what
Is
I do.
anybody surprised that?
It's what I do. It's fine. I'm old. That's my God-given right. So the job I have now requires me to drive large diesel-powered vehicles, which is not something I've really had to do in the past.
Okay.
And so I've oftentimes in the past heard people, my diesel truck driving friends complain about people parking at gas pumps that are diesel gas combo pumps when
So you
when there's gas pumps that are available.
You got like 8 pumps, 2 are
Right.
diesel combos,
Right, and the other 6 are just gas.
and those are open, but somebody's
Right.
taking both.
And I've always like, whatever, just quit your bitching. No,
You're on board with this?
I'm on board. Like, PSA, get the fuck off of that pump. That's not where you belong. If it's the last pump that's available, fine. Okay, whatever. But seriously, no.
I'm with you on this, even
No.
though I've never had this problem.
yes,
I
it's
wonder
never
if
been an
people
issue.
actually have
Weekly.
any idea.
Weekly.
I bet
we'll
they
pull
don't.
into like because we got a big quick trip and a big come and go right next to the shop or real close to the shop. We'll pull into one of those and there'll be somebody on the diesel pump and you can't. I mean, that's it. They got their little Malibu there. I'm like, come on, bro.
And they're always shopping for some reason.
They're
Yeah.
you know they're
it's the
ordering.
family vacation or something.
They're at Quick Trip and they're ordering a breakfast that takes 5 minutes to get ready. Like, dude,
Get off of my pump.
By the way, if I have to go in, because there's no reason for you to go into the gas station anymore like there was 20 years ago. Like if you have to go in for
Right.
something, I
Move the
I
car.
move my car.
yeah,
always.
absolutely.
Unless it's like
Always.
super not busy.
Unless I need
Like 3 in the morning and
right.
I only
or
want
I
the
need a
gas station.
receipt.
Right.
Like the thing shorted me a receipt and I'm already pissed because
Right,
now I
'cause
have to go
You're in a
inside.
fleet vehicle and you have to have that receipt.
Right,
and they're
and-
done. Or you've accidentally hit no because you don't get them for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah, been
Damn
there,
it.
Been
Yeah,
there, done
you gotta go
that.
in. But yeah, I always
Yeah,
pull out of
Some
the
common
doesn't
courtesy.
matter.
And
Doesn't
the other
matter
thing that-
how busy.
pisses me off with people gas station etiquette is when you have 2 pumps in a row and you don't pull all the way forward.
Oh, yeah.
So now
Dude.
people have to do the
Yeah.
shimmy around
Yeah.
in between. thing?
Dude,
Yeah.
you're a dick.
Why would you want to get stuck in there anyway? Because you know somebody else is going to nose in front of
Dude,
you.
if
and
I
then you
see
gotta back
somebody
out.
who's done that, like if I pull in a few cars behind somebody and I see them stop at the not front pump, I will, if I'm on the opposite, if my fill is on the opposite side, I will nose up to them just
To be that guy.
to be
just
that
make
guy.
their life suck.
Yeah, because and then you mean mug them the whole time. Shit pisses me off.
Robbie,
Gas station etiquette, people.
What backwards country did you pull a gas pump up from?
I don't know.
85? Where do you buy 85 octane?
No. It's the only one that had a diesel and then other.
funny.
with it.
Wow. I would like to, I really honestly want to know where you buy 85.
I
Is
also
that even available in America?
not around here
Not
anymore.
that
I
I've
would
ever
think
seen.
so. I think that's,
I was
well,
just
guess
super-
we don't know. It's dollars.
I was super pumped to find out that there's
Yeah, well-
93 next to where I work.
Does it have like a dollar sign or anything on the?
Yeah, they're dollar signs.
Well, I would
Oh,
assume
well, that's gotta
unleaded,
be-
super unleaded premium. That's probably an
That's-
American
it
thing.
seems, it seems American.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The other thing, BP, you need to knock it off with all pumps being green handles. That's a fucking dick
No,
move.
I was confused by the blue handle this week.
Well, that's because
Who's
that's
got a blue
E15
handle?
Everybody E15.
Yeah, I was confused.
Oh, how
I'd
many
nev-
people put that in their car?
I'd
and
never
they're not
seen that
supposed to?
before.
I don't.
Because it's cheaper.
Right. Yeah.
Lots of people probably. Even I got
I
a
would
flex
assume
fuel. I
lots
still
of
haven't done it.
Yeah.
I'm still.
But
It's on
yeah,
it's too far off in the
I'm,
fridge. Robbie.
I'm hesitant.
Why don't you do like half a tank of 87 and then half a tank? Just ease your way over to E85 slowly.
I was tempted to do the blue handle, but I'm like, wait, it's blue. Why is it blue? Nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm
Blue.
not, I'm not
Blue's
messing with
E15
blue
now. So
Blue
now we've got that too.
Green made sense. Blue doesn't make sense.
I don't even know what you can put E15 in.
Flex fuel. The
that
Avalanche?
it?
The Avalanche probably.
That
don't-
seems worthless.
See, I don't know if like, is 5% really that big a difference?
It is when it's super inconsistent. When it could
Can I
be like
throw it?
5% could be like
That
40%.
might
Yeah,
be part of
that's
the
one of
problem.
the things
I
I
thought
hate
that
about ethanol.
a while ago, BMW had put out a thing that said stop putting E15 in our cars because it's burning up the fuel pumps.
I can't remember.
Never seen anything like that. I guess.
Hey, you know what's super fun to learn the hard way? That the diesel tank on a Jetta is not the same as like all the other diesel vehicles. Like
So the big
pickups,
nozzle doesn't fit.
The big nozzle doesn't fit. So then you go in
Really?
there and then you try and then you spill and then you have to pull forward to find the right one because the gas station in your town has 10 of the big ones and only one small one. And then
I
you have to
didn't
go.
know that was a thing.
Then you have to go inside and pay with like pennies for the 33 cents you spilled on the ground. And then you got diesel all over your pants because you spilled.
I often forget that
hard.
Robbie had a TDI in his life.
My dad had a 04 Jetta TDI.
Why
That's
is the
wonderful.
nozzle a different size?
It was the cars have the small ones and like the semis have the like the
The
you know,
big
the one
Oh,
the big
low
one.
rate,
oh,
baby.
that's what you mean.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about small town Iowa.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought you meant like if I went to Quick Trip, I've got to decide
No.
which diesel handle I'm using. But I'm with you now.
Yeah.
I always kind of thought it was also idiot proofing. If you have a handle that's too big to fit in a gas, you don't have some moron who pulls up and tries
Yes.
to fill his gas powered car with diesel.
Yes.
It was also the same day that some guy came running out. Hey, that's diesel. I'm like, I know, but it still doesn't fit. It's the right car, I swear.
It's a problem with the nozzle.
I'm 16. I don't know. I'm stupid.
He said put diesel in it. The pump says diesel, leave me alone.
It says diesel only. It's a diesel pump. What more do you want from me?
So our trucks run diesel, but my splicing trailer, it's got a generator mounted on it. That's gas.
Pain in the ass.
And like one of the first nights that I ever went out and did a night cut, my generator died on me.
Yep.
And at like 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm texting my supervisor like, dude, I don't know. I filled it up with diesel before I left. I don't know why it isn't running. And he was like, dude, that's too early for that. It's not funny.
If somebody did that to me at 4 a.m., I'd be like, I'm
Fired.
not helping you at all.
Fired.
No, I'm just not helping you at all. Like, report back to me when you get back to the office and let me know how that worked out for you. But I'm not talking to you today.
Yeah. So that's my PSA. Just don't be a douche at the gas station.
Etiquette, man.
The problem is I feel like most people that listen to this probably know better.
I would think
So
so.
my PSA isn't reaching the people it needs to reach.
Everyone should share this episode with their friends.
With their
share
idiot
it with the
friends.
masses.
Share
You
with
can
your
learn
idiot friends.
about Formula Drift.
which
you
is
can
awesome.
learn about not
Being a
being a
douche.
jerk.
about being a jerk at the gas station,
Yeah.
which is important. Important lesson
Everybody
for people.
wins.
There's some other things that you may learn if you stick around.
Oh.
I think that's fair to say. This is
called
as
foreshadowing.
educational as PBS, I've been told.
Yeah.
Not suitable for small children, though, as it turns out.
No.
Somebody
There's-
asked us to if we would censor ourselves.
No.
No. He wanted us to go back and censor every episode of the podcast.
Is that how you read that?
123
That's how-
of
that's
them.
how I-
That's
I read it.
Because
Yeah.
I just read that as like carrying forward, which I wasn't going to do either.
No.
But for sure not going back.
Until we get on public radio, we're not censoring.
Public radio.
You gotta
That's
get a public radio voice, though, Robbie. You gotta talk really close to
need
the
to-
microphone.
Welcome.
We need to smoke more. So we got that hacking laugh and stuff. Yeah. The Bob and Tom laugh. You know.
Oh,
what
no.
I'm
Oh, I know what
talking
you're talking about. Yeah.
That's unique,
Absolutely.
I think that comes along when you're in your like 60s.
Oh, okay.
You just don't care
After,
anymore.
after you've been smoking Reds your whole life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose.
Welcome back to the 1010s podcast.
Welcome to 1010s
We're here
podcast.
to talk about drifting with Ryan
Brought,
Sage.
that's brought to you this week by
That's a little-
Blue Apron,
It's a little too much
And- and-
NPR for me. I don't
and
like
Kanka
it.
Motorsports.
King of Motorsports, and Blue Apron. You can prepare gourmet cuisine at your home at your own convenience for just $10 a meal. BlueApron.com. I don't know if that's a website. I don't know how much it
We
costs.
just gave away like a bunch of advertising for somebody.
We did that once. They had some introductory thing, and it was cheaper than going grocery shopping that week, so we signed up for it.
Well
It's
done.
not the worst thing in the world.
Did you see the parody thing that was going around in the podcast groups for a while where I think it was Blue Apron and Purple Mattresses had decided that they had 100% saturated the podcast audience market, so they had
Right.
pulled all advertising, and basically it had like shut down all these podcasts, and these people like, I quit my job for this. Like,
Relax.
my movie review podcast was huge. I was making $100,000 a year. Dead. No money.
Gone.
But it's true though. It's like
It is
all
true.
like mainstream podcasts, Blue Apron, Purple Mattresses, or Casper or whatever.
This just shows how many how many podcasts that are mainstream I don't listen to, because none of the ones
Yeah, I don't know.
none of the
either.
ones I listen to with regularity have
I
advertisements from those people.
legitimately had no idea what Blue Apron was.
You just had to look it up just now.
I just learned.
I don't know if it was Blue Apron was the one because there's like 6 of them.
Whatever.
There's a bunch of them, yeah.
But
If they wanna
we used it
sponsor
for a while.
one-
It's not the worst thing in the world. It's pretty good food.
It's
if they want to sponsor a automotive podcast, I'd try it.
week to week. It is not cheap though.
No, but
Oh.
if you can get in on that introductory, like
That's
1
cheap.
week
That 1 week
price,
trial?
yeah, like oh hey, half off, then
Well,
it's money.
Is that like Amazon Prime when you got to ship that really expensive thing? I
You
need that.
screw it.
I need,
Click it.
I need that $100 shipping today.
It's more expensive. It's like $120 now or
It's
something.
120 a year, or
Mine-
112 a year, I think.
Mine went up. I just renewed it. Which, you know what?
If you use it,
I'm
it's
still
worth
paying for it, so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not too
worth
mad about it.
Yeah,
I know it was
it's
like
worth it.
$75 the first year I had it.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, it was. I may have gotten a deal, but it was substantially cheaper than it is now.
I wish that there was like an Amazon competitor so I could play the TV provider game where I call MediaCom and like
Hey,
DirecTV
they
is going
just
to give me this price. What are you going to do about it? And then next year,
Well,
call DirecTV, just switch back. I wish I could do that with Amazon.
yeah, Walmart's claiming that their 2-day
Walmart's-
shipping is free.
100% free.
Do
you know that-
do you have to sign up?
No.
Do you know that you can just like order shit and like pull up to the Walmart and they'll dump it in your trunk?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Hy-Vee does it too. For when you want to be super lazy.
I feel like that's not a good thing.
That's the Hy-Vee thing has got to be the dumbest waste of time in the entire world, and
So-
I'll tell you why. because I
Wait.
tried it once. They're like, "Oh, we'll bring you the food."
So
I'm like,
you go online and order it and
Great.
then just go pick it up?
No. They would actually bring
They'll
it to
deliver
your
it.
house. They brought it to
They'll
my house.
deliver.
Yeah, they do
Yeah.
that.
Waste of fucking time, and I'll tell you
How's
why.
that a waste of time? I
You
feel
have
like
to
that-
sit on your phone and look for bananas for like, and it's so stupid. You're just like banana. It's such a waste. It's probably different
It would
now.
take less time just to go get
Right,
it.
I'm just gonna go to the grocery store because at least I'm on a mission. I'm driving to the store. I'm not sitting there on my phone
Well,
going,
like-
"Where the hell are the grapes? I want red grapes." It's not worth it.
I feel like maybe it's good to make people get out of their house every once in a while.
What, talk to humans?
No, you don't have to talk
Not
to
him, not him.
The only person you have to talk to is the cashier, and all you got to do is answer a couple simple questions, Robbie.
Like how I'm doing?
But I feel like you need to.
I'll ask the same damn question.
But I feel like you should,
everything? No, I found everything I didn't need, and I spent way more money.
What are you gonna do? Throw a fit when you get up there? Everybody's gonna say yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I found everything I needed. Then a few.
You guys have any like kiddie pools or what about 2x4s? Like no, moron. This isn't Home Depot. That's what you should do next time. Lumber. Didn't find it anywhere. I looked and I
asked a couple people.
I asked somebody. I thought he was lying to me. Next 10/10 top tip. Next time you go to the grocery store, they ask you if you found everything. Ask for 2x4s. Let us know how
but
that
like,
works.
have your wife like low key behind you recording it
Oh yeah, we want to see it.
because I want to see it. Absolutely.
Or if you really don't want to talk to somebody, walk in with earbuds. They don't have to be connected to anything, but if you have earbuds in, no one talks to
Well,
you. ever.
nowadays you've got those AirPods.
Oh yeah,
The Bluetooth earbuds.
Douche pods.
yeah, where you want to look
Yeah.
like an asshole.
I don't.
Walking around with your Bluetooth headset.
Yeah.
I think if you're a cashier and somebody walks up to your whatever it's called, I don't know what do you want to call it? Register.
Cash register. Absolutely.
Register, yeah, register. And they're talking on the phone. You should have legal permission to grab it off their ear and like frisbee throw it across the store.
That's fair.
What if I'm
'Cause that
waiting
drives
in
me
line
nuts.
and I get a phone call?
You answer it later, or you tell them,
Answer
hey,
it later, or like there's been times I'm on the phone. I say, "Hey, I have to check out now.
I'll call you right back."
I'll call you back, or I'm going to put you on hold in my pocket. I'll put the phone back in my pocket.
Yeah, that's legit. No, I
Don't
think
do that to those people. They're not making enough money for your
The other
bullshit.
thing is
if I become governor.
don't be on your phone when you're ordering food either.
Oh yeah, don't do that.
Like
No.
if you're pulling into an Arby's and you're on your phone.
Well, you shouldn't be texting and driving anyways.
No, like I mean
Like walking,
inside.
talking
You
on
went
yourself?
inside because I hate drive-throughs.
I understand.
no,
I
there's
won't do
people
that.
on the drive-through on the phone.
Yeah, there's that too. But
How
I
many
won't-
people do you need to be talking to at
I
once?
won't do the drive-through.
Oh, I'll do drive through once in a while.
Something weird about it. I don't know. I just won't
Arby's
do it.
drive-through or just
No,
drive-through?
drive-throughs. Period. I don't do drive-throughs. I get out of my car and I go inside. Burn a few calories before you eat that shit food. I know it's not offsetting at all, but let's try here.
Well, the last time I went through a drive-through is when we went over to GC Cooling, and that you went in and got food, and you were out of there. I got
That's
stuck
the
in
other
that
thing.
line because
So
somebody
I
ordered
know-
like 17 curly
I
fries.
know for a fact that they will place priority over to-go orders that are inside over drive-through because if you got an angry customer in the lobby, it's a much bigger deal than an angry customer in a car outside.
That's another
that
top
makes
tip.
Perfect sense.
Also,
Just go
don't like
inside.
ice in my drink. Don't like asking for no ice because I feel like a douche.
you ask for no ice.
No, I don't. That's why I don't go to the drive-through because
He
I
just doesn't
don't
put ice in
want to
it.
be that guy.
Yeah.
So then they give me my cup and I just go and I fill it myself and I don't put any ice in it. And then I don't feel weird about asking for stupid things.
I'll be honest. When I was at a drive through on the way to the Ozarks on Friday, and the guy in front of me asked for no ice. And I was like, dude.
Right? Yeah. So I get out of my car and I go and see because I
I
don't.
swear to God, it was like my first thought was, what an asshole. Like, there's no reason to think that, but
when the Camaro ran, and eating habits have changed, but I would go through a drive-through,
Yeah.
right? It's straight piped, and every time you go through a drive-through, there's always a brick wall right next to you,
it's
right?
yeah, echoing
And
like
you just
crazy.
even 16-year-old me or 20-year-old me or whatever is just going, what a douche! Can't hear shit. Just something to be aware of. And don't be the guy that drives the R32 backwards through the drive-thru.
No.
Or even goes through the drive-thru. Like, just don't do it.
Yeah.
If you have a right-hand drive car, just go
Cars
inside.
shouldn't, or restaurants shouldn't have drive-throughs. Is really what this boils down to.
They
Get
shouldn't
out of
have to put up with
fucking
your
car, you
shit
bum.
either. Really,
Just saying.
service workers don't get paid enough for your stupid Doug DeMuro antics. Take it somewhere else. Actually, don't take it somewhere else. Just walk inside, please. And don't go to CarMax unless you're actually looking to buy a car.
I think that's fair.
Factor Fabrication, factorfabrication.com. I was talking to Booney. He's been doing a better job of their active engagement in social media and posting more stuff that they're doing.
I saw
which
they
is
had
cool.
sponsored content the other day. I saw it on
Yeah.
everything I did. Like, just
Yes.
showed up everywhere.
Yeah.
I was
All
like, yep,
over the
I like
place.
that
But-
there. I like it there.
I was talking to him. He's like super swamped right now, so it's good.
That's
It's
awesome.
good. But yeah, I was like, dude, you got to do the Instagram. People love
Fabrication.
Pictures of fabrication.
Well,
man.
and not only that, but just people love like, what do I want to call it? Like maybe not artsy, but it's I don't know what you would call that exactly. It has a quality. It has like a Pinterest quality to it.
Yeah,
that people like and they want to see, and I don't know. There's something in people's brains.
People like fabrication.
They like fabrication
cool stuff. I like it.
Absolutely, follow them on Instagram because they're doing more with that now. Let's do this short news.
Okay,
plowing through the rest of the show.
News sucked this week.
News is bad.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I did what I could.
I forgive you.
I appreciate that.
That did not feel like a genuine apology or whatever that was. So Indian has a sweet new motorcycle coming for 2019. It looks like a flat track bike.
It's kind of
or like a scrambler, Ducati scrambler.
Cafe racer.
Cafe racer.
Did you see that the seat's made of carbon fiber?
Robbie, you gonna order one?
Yeah, I bought one already.
Indian's killing it, man. Indian's got some sick stuff.
Their style is all across the board, and it attracts everybody. I think. I like this bike.
I like
I'm
that
not
bike
really
a
a
lot.
motorcycle guy at all, but yeah, I really
It's
like
a good
this
looking
one.
bike. There's not a lot of information on it. You should go to YouTube and look at the picture or Google it or whatever you want to do. But very cool bike, scrambler, flat track, cafe racer type of thing. But yeah, definitely a departure for Indian. Which, to be fair though, I mean they've got modified Harley Davidsons that look like this, So it's not like
some of the lower end Harleys.
This is a style, and they're kind of claiming that there's really not a competitor.
Well, you can get modified flat track Harley Davidsons, but
Not like that.
you can't go and buy it like that.
You don't roll off the show floor with it.
No. So that's cool.
I'm curious what. I mean, this is a picture of a concept. I'm curious what the actual thing's gonna. Like, I highly doubt that the body panels will be of carbon fiber, and
I bet that's
might
an
be
option spec.
I don't know. Maybe.
I feel like there's no reason they couldn't make it.
Concept cars for cars are way up here, and then the production's like way down here. I don't know if motorcycles do the same thing, or if theirs is a little bit more.
Well, they do dealer installed crap, which sometimes I don't know how they get away with any of that stuff.
Well, they didn't. Remember, Harley got.
Oh yeah, Harley did.
Harley got slapped by it.
I was thinking of.
And that fine they got was like so relatively small that they should have just. Yep. We're sorry. Here's your money.
Well, Jesse James got slapped for it too.
Yeah,
because he was building motorcycles in California, and they were not having
carb legal.
Correct. They were not having. It was building like what?
Like 100 a
Three.
year. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, not very. Yeah, I don't know how many
like
built
their
a year.
peak. It wasn't very many.
Yeah, I was like, really? Is that the guy to go? They fined him like $2 million or something.
Damn,
it was a lot of money.
Wow.
More like a bunch of.
He seems to be doing all right though. He seems to have bounced back.
Yeah.
He's making guns and knives and
everything.
Swords.
He's making these like pie cuts.
Yeah, those
for
are cool.
making sweet exhaust. Did you see that?
Yeah, they're pretty sweet.
They connect together.
Yeah.
And then you can weld them, and they're not cheap.
No,
but
they're very expensive.
I think that the amount of time you spend making each of those individual pieces, I think you might still come out ahead.
Yeah, and when you're at that level of like titanium welding,
like because you're not charging $2 an hour to weld titanium.
No,
you're making money,
and it's for putting exhausts and intakes on Lamborghinis, and
right. Yeah,
you're at the real pointy end of the fabrication spectrum with people that don't really care anymore.
Right. As long as it looks
$120
cool.
an hour. Yeah. Can I get some blued welds on here? Yep, not a problem. So, but yeah, those are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Are you trying to pull that up, Robbie?
Yeah.
Before I switch gears on
I'm
you?
not finding what
It was like Shogun something or another. He posted it on his Facebook page. That's how I saw it. I don't have any idea what it was called.
We'll give it one try.
All right.
I would like to learn how to TIG weld. Not that that's out there in the
TIG welding
weeds by any means, but I would like to learn how to
Yeah,
TIG weld.
TIG welding is cool. It takes a lot of time and patience.
I just want to be able to weld. Like MIG welding would be fine.
Yeah, MIG welding is.
I'm just not very good at welding.
I need to practice.
The worst
that I
part
haven't
about
for a
TIG
while.
welding is I have to use my left hand. So you use your foot for the the control, then you got the electrode with your right hand, and then you got the fill rod with your left.
Yep.
And I'm like, this my hand over here my left hand doesn't do anything. It's worthless. So it's like,
Tell you what,
wrong.
I got a worthless right hand, so I'll just
We'll just TIG weld
I'll hold
together.
your stick. It's fine.
Whoa.
Can't get through one show.
One time.
Just one show.
We have a very professional show with Ryan Sage, and you go and
look at
ruin
that.
it.
Did you see that?
Wow,
That was
look
great.
at that. That's insane.
That's quite a.
That's like I don't know.
Pie cuts are a thing.
100 pie cuts?
Man.
That's not worth it.
I feel like
You could bend an exhaust.
I'm
You know
not
how many
convinced
hours
that
that would
looks
take?
better.
I like pie cuts.
There's a
That's
style people are obviously get into that.
I feel like you can get too carried away with it though.
Like this one, where it's a full exhaust.
This picture you got here, yeah.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's too much. Like, calm down, dude.
It would take days to weld that. Why would you want to
Well,
do
yeah,
that to
It would
yourself?
take days to cut those parts.
and get it right, and
Why would you want to do that to yourself?
then you get
and how many
all the
of
way to
those-
the end
how
and
many of
burn a
those
hole
did he
through it.
cut? How many of those did he cut? And then they were the slightly wrong angle, and he had to
Like
throw
three
it
or
out
four,
and
three or
make
four
another
exhausts worth
But not only that, the material, the
time.
saw. I don't even know how you cut that and not screw
You use
that
a
up.
bandsaw and like 40 blades.
That sounds
you're just gonna go
worthless.
through blade, and then you got to sand all those burrs down when it's off the bandsaw. There's some time in.
That's like a $20,000 exhaust on a Harley Davidson. That's
I
not worth it.
I would all but guarantee that's a shop bike. That's a showpiece.
Yes. That's
without a
probably
doubt.
fair.
Well, the best part is that no one can see it, but the picture is it's a kickstart, so it's like a really old
Of course
bike,
it is.
Oh, it's
like a vintage thing.
yeah, it's probably like a shovel head or something. Some Harley Davidson person just fell out of their chair.
Yeah, they're like super mad at us for not knowing exactly what engine this is and why it's a
fine.
It's a shovel head.
It's a 19.
I'm going with it.
No, it's a
1941
1941
Harley
pan.
diehards that still
Panhead.
listen to
It's a
this.
1941 panhead. Everybody knows that.
panhead.
Look at that exhaust.
Look at that. Yeah, it has. Look at the where the air filter,
no,
the
the
carburetor.
way the
look where the
Kickstarter
carburetor
How
is.
the
is.
head looks like a pan.
Yeah,
the
way the
pan head. And
Oh,
then
man,
the,
someone
the
is
V.
so mad
It's
right
got
now.
a V shape to it with the exhaust ports that come out the side.
Duh.
Everybody knows that.
Moving on.
Wow, we really stretched that worthless story out, didn't we? Toyota finally wins the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
By themselves.
I mean, yay!
Hey, they won. Don't take it away from them.
Congratulations, Alonso.
You got Alonso, who walked away with first, and 2 laps behind him, his teammate, and then 10 laps behind him, third place in the LMP class or LMP1 class. It's like the disparity between the manufacturer and the privateer have always been ridiculous. But now that you just have the manufacturer and the privateers, it's just
It's Toyota's race to lose. So they show up,
Right.
they don't break, they win.
right.
Hooray!
I mean,
At least they won, right? 'Cause they
kudos
didn't
to
win
them
last
for
year.
finally
They-
getting
yeah, they
one,
got-
you know.
They got screwed out of a win in 2016. So I mean,
And
I
certainly,
get it.
they got screwed out of a win last year too.
That's right.
I mean, it's been a long time coming, and I'm happy that they stuck through it. You know, because they could have walked away just like everybody else did.
Yes, they could have.
They stuck with it.
Did you see the video of Alonso like weaving through traffic, getting like
Isn't it
passing people left and right?
ridiculous?
What? I felt like no one really understood the fact that that was an LMP1 car and the rest of those were
I know,
not
but
LMP1
still,
cars. I
still.
understand.
Well, he passed a couple of prototype cars, but they're probably LMP2
LMP2s,
cars.
which I
Right.
was just like, oh my god, it's the craziest pass ever. I'm like,
Right.
this car's like leaps and bounds faster
Right,
than
yeah,
those cars.
absolutely.
I'm not taking anything away from the passes. There was a lot of passes in a short amount of time, but let's put it into perspective, people.
Well, so Shay shared that on our Facebook
Yes.
page. Did you see the comment I put on there?
No.
I'm surprised Fernando Alonso remembers how to pass with all the time he's been with McLaren.
Oh shit!
Man.
Oh shit!
Heyo.
That hurt. That hurt somebody.
That did hurt.
It's true though.
I saw Red Bull's picking up Honda engines. Actually.
Yeah, I decided I didn't care
That's a-
enough to put that on the
okay.
list.
All right, we don't care.
It's a
anymore.
bold maneuver.
It is a bold strategy.
But
Whatever. I really liked Red Bull.
So, 24 Hours of Daytona or of Le Mans
Le Mans.
was super fucking boring.
I watched like grand total an hour and a half of it
That's
we were at,
like an hour and 20 minutes more than
I was at Jess's place over the weekend with her parents
Right.
her parents' lake house rather.
Right.
So every time that the TV wasn't taken, I'd go over there and change it, and then sit there until someone said, "Hey, you need to be social.
We doing, nerd?
Get out of here. We're going on the boat. All right.
Go outside.
Damn it.
It's sunny out,
I get sunburned out there.
and it was like 10 billion
It
degrees.
was like 100 degrees, and all I wanted to do was sip soda and watch some racing.
When it's 100 degrees and like 108 heat index, I don't really think that that's out of line to want to stay inside.
I actively avoided doing things outside this weekend.
I got sunburned.
I did not. I got all the race cars out
Attaboy.
and mixed them all up.
But don't you have like an air conditioner in that shop?
Yeah, but I had to be
Outside.
outside for a while.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean,
I went on
but still.
a couple test drives. That was hot. Still not sure why we don't have air conditioning in the RX-7.
You don't need it.
Just saying.
Did the Fiat ever have it?
You know what? I don't know on that car. There were some that did have it, but I don't know on that car. I could see I could totally see why it wouldn't have it because of the year and the
It's
convertible.
absolutely an option in that era,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Not every car had it,
especially with convertibles.
Yes.
Didn't think about that, especially with convertibles.
Yeah. So I think a majority of them did not, and that one didn't either. The problem is the compressor for that is like half the size of the motor because it's only 1.8 liters.
Absolutely.
So it's a giant thing, and then you've got the, you got all the other components that have to go along with that. So it's
Anyway, did you read the article I threw up there about how they added minimum or maximum laps per stint for drivers?
Yeah.
What
That just kills the race.
they were stopping they were
Constantly.
required. Some teams were required to stop more often than what a load of fuel could do
Yes.
because they had to switch drivers. So they could. It was foreseeable. I mean, I'm sure when they did it, they still topped it off and changed the tires
Well,
just
yeah.
because it's there. But they could have gone back out and continued on without doing any of that stuff, except a driver change was required.
Nothing like taking away your pit stop strategy.
Right.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take all the racing out of a 24-hour race.
Yeah.
set them out there, and who gives a shit who comes back?
Right? You do whatever you got to do. Man, there was some guy that it's been 60 years ago or whatever, but he did like 23 hours and 45 minutes or something stupid.
Good for that guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a man among men.
If he's getting all
and
loopy
he
and
won.
weird, and
But he won.
in people's way,
That's what
champion.
matters.
That's a champion.
yeah.
So much.
That's-
Did you know that there's someone holds the cannonball record for the solo run, and it's like not that much further, not that much longer than the team efforts,
straight fuck that.
like in the 30-hour mark or the 30s mark.
I'd literally open the door and pass out on the ground.
Yeah, how could you do that?
I
Driving nonstop for 30
at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, you'd get delirious.
Well, I would have thought that those guys would start seeing shit.
They do
At 30
They get-
hours.
Yeah, they get delirious because you're not sleep.
No.
You're trying to sleep when your co-driver's driving, but
That's crazy.
People are nuts.
we need to bring the champions back to racing. No limits. Just let him
Yeah,
drive.
absolutely.
If he
Let's
thinks
do
he can do
this.
23 hours,
Let him go.
give him some coffee. Let's go.
If he starts sucking, tell the team manager to get on the radio and tell him he sucks and he has to come
He
in.
clearly has no idea where he is. Get him
Back in here.
Full course yellow. We got to get that guy off the course. He's out in the
But
weeds
that's
again.
good racing.
But he's 10 laps ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good racing.
Yeah. No, not this timed or scheduled pit stop stuff. That kills
This
it.
is like safe spot stuff, like
Safe space.
safe space stuff.
Safe
I'm
space.
not okay with it.
Nah, boring.
Did you see that this is the first time a Japanese manufacturer has won since 1991?
When Mazda won
Was that with a rotary?
with their rotor, I think they're the only other Japanese to have won. I believe that Mazda now can no longer claim that they are the only Japanese manufacturer to have outright won Le Mans. I'm pretty sure I can safely say that. Probably wrong. And
I can't
someone's
prove.
jumping on the
I
rope
can't
right
prove
now.
you're wrong. So
I appreciate
Second
that.
time
You
in
got it.
history
I
a
appreciate
Japanese
that.
manufacturer has won the race. So
Boom.
that's unequivocal.
Boom. Boom.
Good for you.
that's the duncer.
See, I know a few facts. I mean, half of them are wrong, but I know a few.
Whatever. They can't prove it's wrong right now.
Yeah.
I just find that interesting. It's just an interesting fact.
That is kind of surprising.
Surprised the rotary made it that long.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'm not kidding.
That's what they're good for. They're good race engines. I'm kidding.
It's rough.
Nobody get triggered. Don't go to your safe space. They're whatever.
Your hug closet or whatever they call it.
That might-
No, it's a cry closet. It's a
That
cry
might-
closet.
that might be
It's-
something
it's a
else.
cry-
A hug
yeah, hug closet's a whole other thing. Cry closet.
I got weird quick.
Don't worry about it.
But yeah, that's an interesting fact. Is that it on that?
Yeah, I wanted to be excited about it.
Yeah, like every other, the last couple Le Mans, we almost had like a whole show about them because they've been such great races. And this year, I almost didn't even put that on there because I didn't care.
I didn't even watch it at
And
all.
one team got disqualified for letting their gas go into the hole faster.
What they should have done is let the air out of somebody's tires. That'd be something to get disqualified for.
Yeah.
What was cool, I watched the Corvette team change a set of brake pads in 12 seconds.
Jesus.
That's insane.
That's fucking impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind, is it like a quick change caliper setup? Or
Yeah,
what's their
so the
setup?
caliper doesn't even come off the
It just you got pins.
you got like pins that you pop up and there's a guy who's got like these welding gloves basically, and just
Oh yeah, I would bet. What's the temperature of those?
yeah. But they've changed rotors too
Oh my gosh.
in 12 seconds.
The caliper doesn't come off. They take the rotor off.
I think. Well, I don't know. It must pin out, and so
Yeah,
part
it
of the
must.
caliper comes off, but the bracket's still there. And they have that floating caliper set
Yeah.
up, and I don't know, dude. 12 seconds.
That's nuts.
It's insanity.
So the 300ZX setup has pins, so it teases you like, oh, I could just pull the pins and pull the. No,
I think the RX
whole
has
thing
that,
has to
doesn't
come
it?
out.
Mine come out the top.
Yeah, he's come out the top on the RX.
It's because we won Le Mans in 1991.
Yeah.
It's the race technology.
But you know what you don't do?
Genius.
You don't change those when like fresh off the track.
No,
Yeah, you change those like the day before you go to
Yeah,
the
they're
track.
doing this. They're doing this in a pit stop. Like those
That's
brakes
pretty
have got to
funny.
be 600
That's pretty
degrees.
funny.
Carbon fiber brakes.
yeah, that's neat.
It's crazy.
Can't wait till we get that technology. Quick change brake calipers. Come on, man.
I mean, all it takes is money.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Speaking of money, the FIA hypercar class aims to make racing cheaper at the top level.
I like it.
I'm excited about
This could be
this.
fun.
I'm genuinely excited about this class. Even if the cars end up slower, which I would
is fine.
almost guarantee, but I don't really care that much.
No.
I think that this is going to be great.
Yeah, having a car that looks like the car they're selling in the showroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's good.
So we've been trying to get NASCAR to do.
I want homologation specials again.
Yes.
Those are like some of the greatest cars of the 90s and the 80s and stuff were like these crazy homologation cars that came from Le Mans. And
Whatever
hopefully-
happened to homologation rules? Why is that not a thing? Why can't we do that?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Because that was like a big deal.
It was a
288
big deal.
GTO, which was
Yeah.
which was a car that was built for a series that discontinued.
Yep.
That's sweet. What
The
else?
F1 was basically that.
The F1. Yep, the F1.
CLK GTR.
Yes. You can go all the way back to the Lancia Delta.
The Delta Integrale.
Delta Integrale. Yep.
The 039.
The 039.
Maybe even like the
Or
Stratos.
037.
037.
037.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Stratos, definitely. Why, I mean, come on. Why can't we do that?
Those crazy mid-engined Renault 5s. Pretty sure those were homologation cars.
The RS 200?
RS200. That
Yep.
was a homologation car.
What's the deal here?
Some of the crazy up-optioned Audi Quattros. Those were homologation cars.
Robbie, one of his favorites?
Yeah. 5 cylinders, turbos, Audis.
They actually sound quite good.
I'm sure it sounds great.
Sound like
all
little,
the things that Robbie loves.
little mini Lamborghinis.
Odd numbers of cylinders. Way too much boost.
I mean, I
Mini
like, I
Lambo.
like some of those things.
5-cylinder cars are cool.
They are cool.
They
They,
do
sound
They
sweet.
sound cool.
They sound like little mini Hurricanes.
They do like little
Rockins.
pint-sized
You can get it
rocket.
in a naturally aspirated Golf.
Nah, you lost me.
It's kind of a bum deal. And you can get them in Colorados. 5-cylinder Colorados sound like a mini Lambo.
Well, see you later.
They probably don't.
Yeah,
Lost.
those are everything Robbie hates.
Completely gone now. I'm out.
Small GM motors.
Wait, GM makes something that's not a V8? Robbie's out.
Wow. They make big ones. Just stick with the big ones.
You make a perfect engine already. Just make that.
Just make if you want to make a smaller engine, just make a smaller version of it. like a 2.7.
Actually, you know what
LS1.
I'd be on board for? Just cut it in half. Make a V4.
Fine.
Or an inline 4 even.
Nah, make a V4.
Nah, V4 sounds way
V4
cooler.
I'm on board for.
I like
Okay.
that you rhymed that.
Yeah, V4 LS or LT or whatever.
Yeah.
Do it. Stop making the Camaro. Just make the Corvette.
Not letting that die.
So angry about that.
Or just redesign it. Don't
Just
stop.
fix
just
it.
fix it.
Take a year off. Fire everybody. Take a year off.
Well, you're going to need a year to rehire.
Get
things
have
rolling
a
again.
lot of meetings about if any of you do anything that looks like this again.
Training videos on
Training
what you did
videos,
wrong.
yeah. You will be
make those training
deported to an
videos.
undisclosed country, and all of your records will be wiped from the U.S. government because we know people, and that's it. You will never be found again.
Yeah.
And then just go from there. I don't think it would happen again if that's the case.
Yeah,
Dan the
make-
man, if you need some help, give me a call.
Yeah, you got to make an example.
We'll make those training
these
videos.
If you need
That'd be fun.
if you need someone to fire some people, I would gladly do it for you. If anybody's a little apprehensive, like I don't know, nope, just let me in. I'm good. I have a very small consulting fee. I'd probably do it for free.
Just to save the company he loves so.
Yeah, just to bring back the good old days of GM, which was 1970.
I mean, they've had a couple of good
Yeah.
hits between then and now.
2001 was okay.
Made GTOs
2004.
06.
2004 was okay.
Yeah,
2006 was good. 2008
2006
was all right.
was good.
Mostly Pontiacs, but
Yeah.
then they got rid of that.
Yeah,
Kept Buick.
dumb.
Get out of here.
Didn't give us the Buick, whatever that thing was, the GNX.
Real GS.
I recall
The twin turbo
that one
V6.
Oh,
that-
not. What was that called?
I don't know. It was a concept car.
It
2
was
years
cool.
ago.
Yeah, it was cool.
Didn't give us that. That
Nope.
guy gets fired also.
but not the designer. We're gonna
The designer, he gets
gets
gets promoted.
He
Yeah.
gets a raise.
Like, listen, dude, here's all you got to do. Just make that car. Just make that car. That's all you got to do.
Rinse and repeat.
Just do that car. We're getting rid of the Camaro. You're doing that. We're good to go.
So hypercars racing in Le Mans.
Love it.
Yeah. The Senna.
And
The
they're
the
pretty
Mercedes
wide
thing.
open when it comes to engines and power plants and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
They just have a fuel consumption.
Yeah.
Someone has been listening
To this podcast.
1010's podcast, man.
This is a great
good.
idea.
Hit us up with an email. Let us know who you
Yeah.
are.
I mean, I don't even expect like a big royalty check, just like a
Get
thank
some
you.
tickets.
Tickets would be fine.
Tickets.
Yep.
Press box.
Some
something like that.
expenses.
Expenses paid.
To,
Yeah,
to Le Mans.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad if there's a buffet at our press box, but it doesn't, I mean,
It's not required.
I've got a list of stuff that
You got a writer.
I got a writer that I can
Green
send to you.
M&Ms.
Just send it. Just shoot me the email and I'll send it to you. My agent will send it.
Have your people get a hold of my
I
people.
haven't touched an email in 6 years. but-
You literally just said, "Hey Ryan, I'll email you." After this.
He met
I was
his-
being cordial.
He met his
my
intern.
assistant. I would be the worst, like, rich famous person ever.
Just
Because they'd be like,
you would buy-
he's such a douche. Be like, but it's the joke. You guys don't get it. Like, no, you're actually just a douche.
he does have an agent, though. That's the thing.
He says it's a joke. It's real. He actually does.
Worst boss ever.
Is that it on this?
I suppose.
I think so. What do we got going on?
So this comes out on Sunday. So there's still drifting going on
Are
Sunday.
you drifting Sunday too?
I am not.
You're probably driving home from drifting, listening to this at this point.
Yes, I will be coming home on Saturday because I don't have that much tire or
You
time.
have like
or-
a billion tires.
I can only take so many with me. I only have so many wheels.
Fair enough.
If only
there-
someone had like
there
a
is, like-
mobile tire changing thing that you could like put in a van
They have one there now.
and bring.
Do they?
that's-
Yeah, they bought a tire machine.
Oh yeah, they did.
Drift bought a tire.
Yeah, they did. That's
Yep.
perfect.
hilarious.
That's perfect.
Yep. They just bring it in and go, change your own tires. Don't kill yourself.
Yeah, they probably could have done
I
a
love
little
it.
more safety training on that. But that's
Yeah, OSHA's probably not huge on that. But anyway,
they're not.
don't kill yourself with a tire machine. Ask somebody if you need some help.
Yeah, it's
If they're
better.
not-
It's better to ask.
After watching Randy change tires, I would want some more training on doing that.
It's been a lot of years since I've.
How hard
changed
can
a
it
tire.
possibly be?
It's not that hard. Just
Isn't that like the bottom job?
My thing would be like fingers.
when I was in automotive
Watch your
school,
fingers.
Sew those
couple,
back on.
the couple years before I was going there, they said they used to do races, like the second year students versus first year students, until somebody almost lost a finger. Like, yeah,
Somebody-
we don't do that no more.
Bead popped and a finger was in there.
Uh huh.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
That thing that
Split rim changes.
competition split rim change.
Jeez.
So many dead people.
So that's coming up. So that'll be in the midst of this. It'll be too late. If you're listening to this, Good Guys is the
week
weekend
after.
before.
First.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
so the weekend
first.
before the first, or
No.
no, the weekend before the fourth, which is the
first.
first.
It's the weekend after you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming up. If you want to do that, it's in Des Moines. I will be there. Are you going to be there?
Next weekend I plan on crashing the Corvette Club and getting really confused looks.
Nice.
And then the next weekend I plan on crashing Good Guys on Sunday and getting really confused looks.
Wait, when are you going to the Corvette Club?
Saturday.
Where? Is that the one in Ankeny?
No,
Or is
that's
that the one in Chariton?
yeah, Sheridan. It's in Sheridan.
Damn it. I don't think I can make it that far.
Yeah, so it's only an hour from me. So
If it was in Ankeny, I would go and
yeah,
Just kinda
you can wear
hang.
your New Balances and some jorts.
I would feel so comfortable there.
That would be great.
They'd be like, "Which Corvette is yours?"
That
That one,
blue
the
one's my friend.
The blue one over there.
Blue one over there is
Corvette.
my friend. Do you need to borrow a pair of New Balances? I can hook you up.
Nah, I'm gonna rock some Puma. No, I'm gonna rock Goodyears.
Ooh, I like it.
Jorts though, cargo shorts.
I was wearing jorts the other day working in the shop, and
You gonna
just
wear your Jurassic Park shirt?
maybe. I'm definitely wearing it on Friday before I go see the movie on Sunday.
If you don't wear that Jurassic Park shirt on Saturday, how dare you?
I can't wear it 2 days in a row.
You can
3
too.
days
You
in a
own
row.
a
What
washing
about your
machine.
fly fishing one?
I wore that last weekend.
But the Corvette Club doesn't know that.
That's true. They don't.
You should for sure wear that at the Corvette Club. Are you kidding me?
I should. Are long sleeves required? Because I got them.
Because only half the people will find that that's a joke. Think about that. That's a nice shirt.
Is that guy dead serious with this stupid fly fishing shirt? Yeah, he's serious. He loves fly fishing in Iowa.
We have streams.
Yeah, I guess we do. But no, Jess came home from work and I'm in the shop and I'm in my jorts and changing the oil in the 240 and she's like, "What are you wearing?" These are very useful shorts for working in the shop. They're wonderful. I didn't even know you owned a pair of those.
She would have fixed that problem if she did.
You may not own a pair.
Those
anymore.
won't make it through the washer.
Yeah, I don't know that you own jorts anymore.
They were so comfortable working in the shop because it was like 100 degrees and I needed them.
Were they like homemade jorts?
No, they're just like actual like.
You like bought jorts.
I've had these for like 100
they
years.
Jinkos? Or
No,
Jinkos
they're not
or whatever?
Jinkos.
They should be though.
They should have
Those
been
would
like
those would technically be jeans still.
because they're too long.
They're too long and too wide.
They might be like capri pants. They're like really wide
But
capri pants.
I was pretty happy because I was looking for my khaki dicky shorts that I work in, and then I couldn't find them. And then at the bottom of the drawer with these jorts, I'm like, oh yeah, rocking jorts today.
It's a lifestyle.
It's the simple things, really. That's part of that estate life.
No, it's part of the Corvette life.
Had they seen me, they would have voted me right out of there.
Kept the doors down that day.
You don't own a Corvette? Get the hell out!
You're going to have to get a Corvette, Robbie.
No, because then they'll hate me because it's got dust on it. Because if I drive it on the gravel, they're like, "Ugh, look at this idiot with this.
You're going to have to get
dusty
your
Corvette."
California Duster thing.
Yeah.
You got to leave it in the back.
Bring that to you.
Oh yeah,
Let you try mine. See if it works on your vinyl or not.
I just spray it with the hose.
I know.
It's okay.
But once you get to where you're going, the California Duster is
Dude, they're like
You realize
$30.
I know, but I don't care enough with my car. Like I'm gonna show up at Good Guys.
Who are
Covered
you?
in
He
dust.
spent
Who
months
are you, Robbie?
just like the vinyl and the
No.
thing and the
When you
it's
do
dusty.
something, you got to do it right.
you don't understand how like such a wild departure.
5 years ago,
What have we done to you?
racing first, safety third, looks fourth.
Safety.
What's second?
My looks.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
Car, yeah. Just dust your car. It literally takes like 3 minutes.
Well, I went to car like
Just
the
need
last
to
time I
drive
went
faster.
anywhere with it. I did the Cars and Coffee on Saturday, and then came home and then left again to go to the ISU thing on Sunday. So it
Okay.
had like 3 miles of gravel on it. And by the time I got there, I tried to wipe it down. I'm like, after about a minute, I'm like, fuck it. I just left it dusty.
That a boy.
Not worth
I'm so
it.
proud
The
of you.
Duster's magical though.
I didn't have
It
the-
lives
But I wonder how well it would work on that vinyl, you know?
I don't know.
Because I assume that's not like real smooth to the touch, like paint.
It's not like paint. No, not at all.
So that's why I was going
I'm
to
sure
bring
there's
mine and let him try it before he invests in it.
I have a.
Also, because I think
vinyl
that if
spray.
it works well, it would revolutionize his world, and he'd get it.
It's not
I have
Take
like
some
2
pride
of them. I
in
don't know
your
where they are.
car, Robbie.
the gravel road.
Spent
has
all that
changed
time
it.
on that.
Yeah, I know, but just because it's dusty doesn't mean I have to make a big deal out of it.
It is a big deal.
gonna
It
get,
is
like-
when you go to a
Car
a
show.
function.
We're done. No,
Would you go
moving
to
on
hot
from the car shows?
Would
Moving
you
on
go to
from the
hot
car
import
shows.
nights with a dusty car?
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, probably.
I
Might wash it
even,
off
even
beforehand.
I washed my car before I went to an autocross.
No, I'm taking a page out of Josh's book. I'm showing up to Good Guys dirty. Leave it.
you wash your car before you came?
No,
I didn't know.
Someone's
I was-
gonna write "wash me" on the
This is
windshield.
my
I'm not gonna
daily.
be that dirty.
It's my daily. Didn't know I was gonna win. Maybe you guys shouldn't just drive better.
Drive fast.
Don't suck at driving for sure.
Yeah, no. If I show up and suck, then I have to have a clean car at least. So I gotta go the other direction. If I
Yeah.
suck.
So I have basically 100% committed to grid life. So
Yeah,
see ya.
there'll be some people at Grid
Is that a
Life.
boy?
So
What do you? How's that gonna work out for you? You gonna do Rad V?
that's been offered. Sounds like Josh is bringing a contingent of Sufalians,
Oh,
and I may sleep in a hotel with them. Or
would
may just take Katie's van and fold the seats down.
That's a
a great
plan.
option.
That's a great plan. That sounds like a very good plan.
I haven't decided yet. The
Still
world
haven't
is my burrito.
still haven't cracked the tent conundrum yet.
I have a tent that I could try.
It's not waterproof.
It might be though.
Sure,
Here's the cheapest tent that Walmart sells, so it probably is waterproof because that's how things work.
it's made out of tarp,
You know?
so it actually is waterproof.
Yeah,
It's fine.
It's so cheap that the water can't penetrate it.
Yeah. No, I've been working on this because it does bother. I am bothered by it.
Yeah.
And I have not come up with a solution yet.
So
and people send me stuff. They're like, "Oh, it's not waterproof,
not
though,
wa-
dude. It's
it's
still not
Bob-
waterproof."
It's not quite
Bob
what I'm looking
swears
for.
by this Teflon spray that you put on your tent.
I'm sure that does work, but that seriously sounds like way too much messing around for a
Like,
tent.
because I
Couldn't
feel
you
like
just buy a tarp and then just like throw it over?
I wondered about that.
Just get a tarp, big one, and throw it
are
over top of the
tarps
tent.
really that waterproof when
Yeah.
they're being
As long as they're not broken.
rained on?
Yeah.
Like a blue tarp.
Yeah, like a blue tarp.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those are waterproof.
I was talking to Andy Sharman about when he was going to drifting.
You
He's
mean
like,
Andy
yeah.
Sherman?
Sherman.
Andrew. We'll just call him Andrew. I don't think he goes by Andrew. But
I've never seen that.
I think his
So-
name. I
so his
think. I
name's-
think. I think his name is also Ryan.
Ryan.
Yeah,
Ryan. Ryan.
Thompson.
Ryan Sherman. Ryan Thompson. You were talking to Ryan
I was
Thompson with the
talking to
240.
Ryan about his 240.
Wait, is that a person? That is a person.
yeah, right.
Damn it! No, we can't.
That's why I did that.
Well, first I was talking to Zach.
Zach Bart.
No.
Oh,
No, Zach LePetri.
oh, Zach LePG. Right.
But anyways, he was saying like, you know what? I couldn't find a hotel, so I'm just gonna fold the seats down. I was like, yeah. That's why I love the Avalanche so much that there's a potential to have a tent in the back. He's like, yeah, that's a great idea.
I should get a vibe. Or
Yeah.
not a vibe, an Aztec.
Aztec, yeah.
They're so
Or-
awful, but they have a tent.
I know.
So it's great for camping.
I know.
Somebody did send me the pop up mount on top of the vehicle tent, but this one has like it
Oh.
actually has a hard top,
Oh man.
and then it pops up, and then there's like a thing that folds out of it. So if it was raining, you could just stay
in the car.
In the hard part.
in the hard top part of it. Yeah, because obviously it's plastic. So
Huh.
that would be.
Get through that water.
But I like, what am I going to mount that on? The Genesis?
Yeah.
I have to talk to an engineer about that.
Just get a,
I'll talk to
just
you
get
about
a roof rack.
Yeah, I'll talk to you about it.
The roof rack for the
Yeah,
Genesis.
you already talked to
Well,
an
I have a glass
engineer about
roof,
it. He's
though.
approved it.
It doesn't have to stay on forever.
No, I'm just curious how you attach it if the roof's glass.
We could get you some.
Does that
well,
not have...
It's the same thing for when you have your like a ski rack, like when you
Yeah.
take your skis.
They
We'll get
usually
you,
have
we'll get you a
mounts.
ski
I
rack.
have a ski pass through though, so I don't know if
I bet you there's a mount
Oh.
on the top
you think so.
We'll get you a mount.
and like the rail there.
Yeah,
Think there's a rail? I haven't even looked.
we could make one.
Just screw it to the metal part.
I mean, you got
I
a
know
welder,
an,
don't you?
I know an engineer and a
I have
fab
a what?
guy.
You have a welder, don't you?
I could weld a thing to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just paint
it's
it white.
an option. I mean,
You know what? You know what I've been
we
doing?
could, we could factor fabricate it.
do you ever open those back doors? We could just
Well,
weld those shut. And
I'll do the same thing I do with the RX-7. I figured out that was painted with Rust-Oleum satin white.
okay.
So you just paint everything like if there's a scuff, I just hit it with a little spray paint.
That's the best part of the bash bar on the 240.
You laugh, but I have done that
Scrape-
Oh,
quite
yeah,
often,
I'm sure.
and it matches exceptionally well. And I'm not really sure why. I just took a guess. I was like,
This
"It's satin
close.
white." I went to the
White,
hardware
right?
store. I'm
How-
like, "They
How many
sell
different colors of
Rust-Oleum."
white can there possibly be? Right?
Ask a female decorator.
Ask a body guy.
No,
There's like
Yeah.
a billion
There-
someplace.
There's interior designers. Somebody
Yeah.
just rolled over in their grave. But yeah,
Well,
so
that was like when I did my calipers. I just painted them red with this, the spray stuff.
Right.
And they're like, "Why do you just powder coat it?" I was like, "Because when I do this and I, touch it with the rim and break it, I can do this."
Yeah, but if you
And it's
powder coated,
fixed.
it would never do that.
Never, ever.
No.
Oh, we'll be all
This
right.
shit's like super hardcore.
That sounds like a lot of work.
I know a guy.
Okay.
My dad's got a whole.
who's our
setup.
power coat? Oh, your dad.
Yeah.
If you're just doing breakout, like things
Things
if,
that fit in an oven.
if it'll fit in your oven, I got your back.
Okay. Maybe I will reconsider. But it's been convenient now just to spray.
Mine are just black because I'm not a racer. I was painted.
Shit.
You say that, but they were purple when I got them. So,
You should have left it
Should have
purple.
rolled with that for sure.
Yeah.
but he like painted the whole damn thing purple, like all the seals and the.
Oh.
He didn't do any taping or anything. Painting the
So
inside.
if you painted them red,
Jesus.
they would match the livery that you have yet to install.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Now it's an accent.
We can still paint them red.
That makes it not.
I could take them
racer.
off and have them powder coated correctly.
Oh, yeah. Or I could just
Gonna
spray
be that guy about
Yeah,
it, aren't
I
you?
got-
I could just spray them.
You just got to one up Robbie, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, because now he doesn't give a shit about how his car
Yeah.
looks. It's amazing how the RX-7 is.
The tables have turned.
Like I repainted the headlights. I'm thinking about repainting the roof. Like doing all this
the heck
stuff.
with that.
Just wrap it.
Yeah.
No, I am, but it's got to be white before we start.
I mean, it looks pretty white from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I swear to God, at some point, somebody like literally duct taped the whole passenger side pop-up headlight. Just duct tape all over the top of it, and then took it off.
Oh,
I could not get that shit to come off. Sanding.
that
I was
sucks.
sanding through it. So I just repainted it, and I painted the whole back of the car. It's a process.
I
The car looks a lot better than when I got it.
I
I'm not-
understand.
It does
not-
look really good.
I'm not saying
in the
anything to
pictures,
anybody,
at
but I'm just
least.
saying that it's...
That's only where they need to look good. You don't need to
That's fair.
get up close.
You just got to keep your
5
Instagram
foot-
game strong,
yeah,
right?
5 foot
Yeah.
rule.
That's the drifting life, is having a
Yes.
strong Instagram game.
It is. It's all about your angles. I got to get some a dimple dye, and put for my A-pillar bars.
Oh yeah.
Because, people are
yeah,
all about
now I'm
that
with
look.
You.
Yeah.
Now I'm with you.
Purely,
You should just bead roll it.
does that
Instead
look
of
cool?
I don't know, but
Nah,
People
you
are into
you
dimple
want the
dye.
you
They-
get like
you want the
but you
noodles.
get like cool patterns with the bead rollers and like change the fucking game, man.
Changing the game.
Do something different.
interesting.
Mix it
You
up.
could have a fabricator that we know laser cut.
Could you get louver
logos and
like
stuff into it?
louver it? Louvers are cool. Louvers are in.
Yeah, well, that Colleen, is that her name? Davis? I don't know.
Yeah, I think
you
so.
look it up on Instagram. She's got
Sure.
that really neon RX-7.
Okay.
That drift car she's building. She's got pink louvers.
Oh, like where though?
Back window. The
No, I'm
whole
talking
giant
about
one.
like instead of doing the dimples,
Oh.
make it louvers.
I don't think it's wide enough. I think it look weird. Be real
I
narrow.
think bead rollers where it's
Oh,
at.
well, another name you got wrong.
Is it? Oh, it's Colette, isn't it?
There it is.
Yeah.
It's fine. That's what we do here.
I'm not like a massive fan of her. I just saw her on race
Yeah.
service. They were doing her.
Damn it.
Yeah, they were.
Hey, I wasn't done yet. They were doing her livery. How rude.
Oh,
How rude. How rude. Ooh, boy.
that's
That's a look.
that's a bright.
Oh
that's a bright
man,
color.
that's like a Barbie car. That's dedication.
But it's allowed because she's a girl.
Yeah, I
I'm
think she
not
does
mad
have
about
like a
it. You know what?
Barbie on the inside.
Even if it wasn't a girl,
It's
it's a drift car.
It
You
is a
can-
drift
You
car.
can get away with that.
well, first time I saw it, I was like,
Whoa.
some dude owned this? Because, that was my first thought. I was like,
Well,
oh, no, it's a
so
girl.
I feel like someone with a drift Corvette should probably make a pink Barbie car at some point.
Interesting point.
I feel like that should be a thing at some point. I think they made a Mustang too, Michael.
A what?
I think they made a Mustang too.
Oh, a Mustang? I still haven't decided when I have my $50,000 to build my drift car. I haven't decided what chassis I'm going to go with yet.
See what's available. at the time.
C6 or a
Yeah.
197
It'll be fine.
Or a Viper
or a Viper. Nah.
with an LS. Remember?
Not as, I don't know, not as sold on that idea.
Now we've moved on from it. The problem is that like, who are you gonna get to make knuckles for you and shit like that? Like
We know a guy.
If I was going to do it over again, this would be the car like if I ran it into something, it'd just be like pop stuff off, put it back on sort of thing.
right. So you need one with a market.
Yeah, I don't really want
The Vipers don't have.
Viper's
like,
probably not where it's
like
at.
Drift markets.
the 197 would be good. The problem with the Corvette is that
not
if you
there
run
yet.
into something, it just explodes.
right? Because it's fiberglass.
Yeah.
It's not there yet. though.
Somebody taps into you, it's a hole instead of a dent.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but they look sweet, and there's no freaking space on the inside.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool to mount your hydro brake to the ceiling, though.
Dirk Stratton did
Dirk
that.
Stratton
in his
style.
I think his S13 was that way. Do you have a 13 or a 14? Do you remember?
13.
His was on the roof.
I didn't know. I thought it was just in his vet because I know
Maybe his vet one's on the roof too.
It is in his
Is it?
C6. I remember that from Grid Life last year.
Yep.
So, have we drugged this out long enough?
Oh,
Yeah, we can wrap it up.
Without a doubt.
Should we shut this down?
Yep. Let's catch you guys next week.